Someone that he probably doesn't want to talk to. He's like, I'm really excited to have you here. Every time he does
Seriously, man, like you're legitimately one of my favorite people.
Dude, so I feel the same.
Oh, damn, man.
This is cool. Like, I know your show's just as cool, but Joe Rogan's on this Fear Factor platform and MMA and USC, and like, so he does this, and I watch it, and I'm like, man, that'd be kind of cool to do. Just like talk for 2 hours to someone,
right?
Like,
right.
I'm that interesting that Brian Belford can interview all these mayors and Ocean Spring people. He's like, hey, I want you on this show,
dude. I'm actually surprised that people want to even come on the show, really, but. Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
I'm going to include all this shit, by the way. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Shop and Chivalry podcast. My guest today is John Tisue.
Yes.
What's up, homie?
Not much. Am I supposed to reach over and shake your hand?
You can do whatever you'd like. Oh, this feels so good.
Dude.
Man, you've been working out? That's a Cadillac grip.
Not since COVID, man. COVID really kept me out of the gym.
Yeah. So I've got a home gym, a pretty nice home gym, and I haven't used it since COVID started. Hashtag solidarity, you know. If other people can't work out, I won't either.
I don't want to look good naked if others can't.
But that's the point of working out, right?
Yeah, that is,
like,
that is the sole reason. If it didn't increase my sexual relationships, I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's funny you say that. Look good naked. Do you know who Louis Ramey is?
Nope.
Oh, he's a comedian. The first time I heard,
I bet he looks good naked.
Well, he's got this joke that he sets up, and he's like, I work out the same reason everybody else does, you know, to look good naked.
Oh, yeah.
But which is true, you know. Like if I work out, I'm not thinking about. Man, I probably should have turned the AC on. I'll do it in a moment. This is, who cares? Who cares? I could edit it out. I'm not going to, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But yeah, it's true. Like, I don't do it for any health benefits. Do you?
I like to tell myself I do, but I know I bet it's like, I'm just making up percentages. 80%. Maybe lose my virginity. 10% health benefits. 10% be Air Force standards.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way,
I have to read this.
Here. You read that, and then I'm gonna go turn the AC on. It's gonna be great.
Okay, it's a good plan. I just gotta find it. Okay, I have to say this. These views are my own and do not reflect those of the Air Force or Department of Defense. I was told to say that prior to doing this. All right, I said it. We can move on.
Perfect. Oh, God. That's great. And I'll be sure to put that somewhere in the show.
I'd appreciate
Probably
that.
afterwards, but anyway. Probably not at all. So
just don't cut mine out.
Yeah, it's weird. It didn't make the final cut.
Hey,
sorry about that.
I'm recording too. I learned that in my Air Force career. You record every conversation with every person. Just kidding. That's not a thing.
I did at Moody. Yeah, I did. But,
smart.
Well, you know,
my phone battery would die at 10 a.m., but I figured it out.
Dude, I bought a specific like recorder.
Dang. Even when I knew you?
Yeah.
You recorded everything I told you.
No. Not with you, certain people.
Good.
But yeah, I figured you and I just had two. We should have recorded those conversations.
I have to say this. So I'm still a pretty blue person, I think. Not as blue as everyone, but I remember I just like always believed like you just gotta follow your leadership, and when people would complain about things, I would tell you like that, you know, dude, you just gotta trust your leaders and like that they're doing the right thing. And you know, like I feel like you and Buddha and Stocking and a Whitford like cut me out of a group chat because that was my attitude. And like I was like, you know what, I get it.
Yeah. Like
I'm different and it's fine. And then like I forgot what it was, but I never talk bad about people. And one day I was upset and I started talking bad about someone. And you were like, you know, John, I've really looked forward to telling you this. And I was like, well, what? Like, what is it? And he's like, you know, sometimes you just You really got to trust your leaders and that they're doing the right thing at all times. I was like, oh, damn. That's what I always say. And I was like, that sucks. You're like, yeah, how do you think we feel? I was like, hey, and I haven't said it again since.
And that was probably the first mentorship opportunity we had together.
No, there was many before that, but I remember I was like, oh, that sucks.
Damn.
You didn't even respond to my complaint.
Perfect. Oh goodness, man! I don't know where to begin, man. It's already started off so great. Well, tell us about yourself, John.
Oh, sure. So, I'm John Tisue. I was a military kid growing up, so when people ask me where's home, I don't know what to really say. I spent my first 6 years in the Air Force in Nebraska, so I usually just say Nebraska. If I don't think I'm going to talk to you for long, I'll just say Nebraska. Omaha, that's where Offutt Air Force Base is. But man, I grew up all over. I went to high school in Hawaii, Germany, Japan. I've been all over. Yeah, that was just my high school years. I played quarterback in high school. I played soccer. I was a center mid for soccer. I joined the Air Force pretty much out of high school. I went to Georgia following a girl. That didn't really work out, and so luckily I just talked to a recruiter. The high school made me take my ASVAB. So that's like how I kind of ended up in the Air Force. They made me, and then I just wanted to leave Georgia because that's where I went following that girl.
And you probably never wanted to go back again. And you probably committed, I will never go back to Georgia ever again.
No. I didn't. We weren't even like, she wasn't even like really my girlfriend. It was just a girl I really liked, and she would.
Do you have a lot of those?
Yes.
Yes.
No. I'll say no. The answer is no. Okay. I've been in love with like one girl for 10 years, and that didn't work out until recently.
Oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
No, that's good. I learned a lot from it.
Yeah. Well, at least you learned from it.
Yeah. But anyway, so I talked to this recruiter, and within like 2 weeks, he had me shipped out if I didn't pick my job. And I was like, I don't care what job I am. He said, this job just opened up, air traffic. If you want it, it's yours. And
what'd you know about air traffic?
Very honestly, when he said that, I did think it was the WAN waiver, but Google was the thing, so I Googled it.
These?
Yeah, I did. I did think that, and I was like, I could do that. And so I Googled it, and it was like that. And I, my sister's husband, he's about 8 years older than us. He's a little older than us. He was like, that job's stressful, don't do it. And that like just made me want to do it more. I was like, oh no, I'm like, I can
see you respond to something like that.
Yeah, and I was 18, and I'm really glad I did. I'm glad I just jumped on it. I almost joined the Army, and I'm glad that didn't happen. So
yeah,
like I was going to join the Army, but the Air Force recruiter said, if you don't care about your job, you can leave in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. And here I am. 5 bases later, I'm at,
wow.
Meeting you.
Yeah. Well,
we just got me.
What's that?
Look where life is taking me.
Some backyard podcast of some degenerate that dropped out. I'm just kidding.
This is a top 3 experience of my life.
Yeah, is it? Oh man, that's exciting. This is like a top 80. For me, but
me particularly.
What's that?
What's your number 1 top experience of your life?
Of my life.
Yeah, number 1.
Man, that's a good question. I'd say one of the biggest ones was, I mean, obviously getting married. I mean, that was a great experience for me.
You have to say that. Okay, number 2 experience.
Let's get to the truth answer.
Number 2.
Got it. Okay, all right.
Good job, Mary.
Number 2 was I was in 7th grade, and this is kind of a dope story though. But we were playing. So I went to in 7th grade. I moved to Texas to live with my grandparents. No.
Okay, go ahead.
That's 3rd grade story. That's number 7. That's number 7. We'll get there. But so I was in Texas, and Texas is this small town. My grandfather was the pastor of this town. Shout out to Kingsland, Llano, and I was the only one that really had like organized basketball experience. And I was not very good here, right? But I went there, and I just kind of blossomed into basketball, and I played basketball. I was, I've been the same height since 7th grade. So they had me play a post position, but because I had experience, I could handle the ball really well. I played point. Anyway, we were playing this town, Wimberley, Texas, and they were the sports mecca of the district. They won everything, right down to the damn spelling bee, I'm guessing. But we were in, it was 4th quarter of this basketball game, 7th grade, and we were down 26-24, and like 7 seconds left. I inbound the ball, get the ball down court. I'd take some deep 3-point shot, win, beat Wimberley. In the papers, all this stuff. That was probably a number 2 experience for me.
Brian Belford single-handedly beat Wimberley.
Brian, a.k.a. Mississippi, because that's what they called me. Yeah.
Did they spell Mississippi right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can spell that.
It'd be funny. Like, you can't talk shit about Mississippi if you spell it wrong. but no, they got it right.
Before I made that joke, I was like, you might ask me to spell it. I was like, but it's on his arm. I'll read it. I'll read it.
But that's number 2. What about you? What's your number 1? Like, we know you're number 3.
Yeah, that's it.
And 4 through 8 are just experiences with me. So,
yep, confirmed. So it's funny you say that. I have an experience that someone's asked me that question before that I listed, and I don't want to relist that one because I don't want it to be my favorite memory anymore. So it has to do with that girl for 10 years. So my number 2 best experience. Man, I feel like it's gonna be quiet. Like if I'm like running through things that aren't like a nerd answer to say.
Yeah, it's tough, man. You know, it's tough to be put on the spot like that.
I didn't shoot a 3-pointer and beat the best school in Texas. Damn it. Ugh.
Is it sports related, you think? I mean,
no, because I played quarterback, but everyone called me handoff back because I mostly just handed off the ball. So, I think I throw the ball 3 times a game. Maybe, I don't know. I lead my school in high school interceptions. There's nothing. I don't usually talk about.
You know what's great about saying it like that is that you could, and you never tell the position. They could be like, "You're a really good defensive player."
So while we're talking, if my best moment pops up in my head, because now I'm going to think about it of an appropriate one to talk about, I'll come up with it. But as I left Spangalum, when you as a senior NCO,
Spangalum in Germany,
yes, as you leave as a senior NCO, you have a little. I think even tech sergeant staffs might do it, but you have a conversation with your commander just about what you experienced, what they could do better if you have anything. You're leaving, so why not talk? They could gain something. So could you. I gained a lot from talking to him. Matthew, what was his name? Probably best commander I've ever had.
Okay.
But I remember telling him, I remember we were talking about sports during that meeting, and I had said, like, I hold my school's record for most interceptions thrown. I think that's how I said it. Mm-hmm. And he started complimenting me, like, oh, great. So you're, like, really, that makes sense. You're good at, like, setting records, catching the ball, being a hawk. And I was like, no, sir. Like, most interceptions thrown. He's like, well, you just kept slinging it. Being the positive reinforcement that guy was.
Just kept slinging it.
All right.
Was he talking about football when he said that?
Yes, he is very professional. Not a single unprofessional thing.
That's
from
that awesome. Oh, that's too fast. So let's talk about your experience in the Air Force then. I mean, you started, your first base you said was Nebraska?
Yep. Yeah, man.
Okay.
I had a tech school. I went to off at Nebraska for 5 years. I met so many like-minded, same-aged people as me. Had you been there, you would have fit right in. Actually, no, you would have been trying to lead us too much, trying to be too smart for us. So maybe you wouldn't have fit in. But it was just a bunch of, I know they're smart, but dumb, immature, kids, and most of us were single, and even the ones that were married still hung out with us. Man, I kind of want to listen off, like Richard Erler, Paul M. There's so many people that I'm not going to listen off because if I forget someone, they'll be upset if they ever listen to this.
Yeah.
But those two I keep up with a lot. Chase Willis, but there were so many of us, and we were all just so like-minded, dude, and we all wanted to do the same thing every night. We all wanted to chase women, had the same immature jokes that aren't always the best things to say in public. And we just became such great friends, and Omaha's not an ideal place to be, but there's 2 all-girl colleges, so for a military guy, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And I really love that place. I'd love to go back there. And then I went to Moody Air Force Base where I met Christopher Stocking, Chris Bourakis, this idiot Brian Belford. I could talk hours about this moron.
This guy.
And that was a cool experience. And then I volunteered to go to Osan.
Korea,
yeah. And that was 1 year. I got to live off base, and I had a girlfriend ex-girlfriend now, Maribel. I met her at Moody.
Yep.
She was civilian. I think you met her.
Yeah.
She quit her job, followed me to Korea. That shit was cool. She lived with me off base for most of my time there, and then I moved to Germany. She followed me there too. We and things just weren't right between us, so we split up, and. Mm-hmm. And I spent 2 years in Germany. That was great. Traveled all over Europe.
Yeah, you had like an RV, right?
I did. Yeah, me and my friend Alex Sedilio, really smart dude. Me and him, he saw it and he was like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" I said, "Let's buy it."
Man, I've always loved that about you. You were never and this might not be the best way to describe it, but you weren't a why should we, you were a why not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it was, yeah, it's a good idea. So why aren't we doing that? You know, and that's I think a quality that a lot of people don't have. One, I think it takes a lot of courage to, you know, to have that perspective to say the idea alone has its merit. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, and taking that step, I think is encouraging for other people. It's empowering for other people too, because they're probably aware, if they're asking you, they're probably aware of some reason maybe why they shouldn't or why they don't want to, but you give them permission to pursue that when you decide or when you say something like, yeah, so why don't we do it?
Yeah, that's really, I appreciate you saying that. It sounds like I'm sometimes a good influence, sometimes a bad one, but in this moment, I think it was a good one.
Yeah. Well, it's about what you make of it, and you're probably one of those people who would give that advice to people about an assignment and say, well, the assignment is what you make of it, sure. Because you'll take the idea and say, and like for example, this, and not to get too deep on this one subject, but why don't we buy the damn RV?
Yeah.
You know, why not? Let's do it.
Yep, I agree with that. So it was a $7,000 thing. If I spent $3,500 and never used it, a year later, I'm not going to notice $3,500. Like, but I might have some pretty cool experiences with this RV, which I did. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I remember as soon as we bought it, the first thing we did is we went down to Lake. I'm going to say it wrong. It's German. Ibiza. This is like South Central Germany. You go through the Black Forest to get there, and just went camping there. And then the very next week I went to NCOA, so I took it there, my plan was
I remember this, yeah.
My plan was to live out of that during NCOA. It's just like school that we go to for military.
It's like a middle manager kind of course and experience. Yeah.
It's called Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. It's for leadership. Yeah. And that was cool. So I had it there, and everyone thought it was really cool. You know, this is a school of 140 kids. Yeah. And people always wanted to check it out. I was the flight leader for our flight, and our flight was called Predator, you know, for the Predator drones. But I had the little rope that said, I'm in charge of the Predator flight, 12 other students. Yeah. And so our chant was, I would yell Predator flight, and then the other 12 kids would yell, get in the van. And so when the higher rank of people were like, well, this is semi-inappropriate, it's like, well, no, the leader has a van.
He's actually got a van. Yeah. I know the way it sounds, but it's actually accurate. But still, there should have been, I don't care. Change the damn chant.
And that did come up, and then it became our thing to empowerment, every day we thought of something new and stupid to say, tried to beat it.
Yeah.
But it was a really good experience.
That's how I made fun of the award ceremonies at Moody. You know, they'd get the squadrons there, and we'd have to do a chant, but we were never organized enough to actually have a squadron chant. So I was like, we're going to make up a new chant every time.
I'd be in. Can I have some input? Because I'm in.
We decided on the car ride over there, me and 1 to 4 other people, and we decided what it was. And one time it was just they would, someone would yell, 23rd OSS, and we just stand up and just completely mindless and stupid. It's actually not funny, but it's so stupid that it might get a laugh, and it did.
In synchronization?
No, just a really slow, overly exaggerated.
Dude,
that's all it was.
Stupid gets people excited.
Yeah, one of them was we stood up and we did a wave and would yell, huzzah!
I would be excited.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine trying to accept some award.
Well let me
my new rank.
Well, it's so funny because one day I was, it was the commander, the shirt, and then me, and the shirt was like, Belford, don't embarrass us this time. And I was like, don't worry, we've got a good one today. That was the huzzah day.
This shirt is like, these simple-minded people, they just don't understand. That's good. Oh, I can't. See, what sucks about being on a podcast is I have stole so many lines and jokes from other people, and mainly you, especially leadership lines. I recycle and people think I'm the wise one. And now,
that's the goal after all.
You're about to put all of them on this thing where people can maybe one day listen and be like, oh, that's not TP's original thought. This Brian dude came up with it.
Oh man. Well,
screwed.
Let me tell you this, you don't own your thoughts.
That's fair.
Thoughts are not your own. They're all manifestations of your experience.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So everything that you think about, every idea that you have is influenced by another idea or experience. And that's kind of what, if you think about it, so books, I tell people, books are kind of like the Matrix. Mm-hmm. And I think about this scene in the Matrix where, well, first of all, have you seen it?
Of course. Well,
okay.
The first one.
First one, perfect. That's all we're talking about. So there's a scene on the roof of a building where they're being chased by the virus people in suits, right? And there's a Black Hawk helicopter, and they need to be able to fly the helicopter, and so there's a train coming. But there's... So the person that's at the computer, outside of the simulation, he just gets a whatever file, uploads it, her eyes kind of flicker, and then she's able to fly the helicopter. Well, that's what books are. Books are experience and information, not derived from you, but instead they're distilled down for you to absorb. So what's happening when you're reading is you're taking down this distilled information from somebody, including their own perspective ideas, and allowing you to learn from it. You didn't have to do all the research to get that. You just get the after product. It's kind of an amazing thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a really wise way to say it. Like, I bet I could fly a helicopter now because I've read a few books.
Maybe not that specifically.
But no, I think General Mattis, he came out with a book recently, something Chaos. I forget. I don't know.
Call Sign Chaos. That's a great book.
Yeah. And he says something very similar to that. Like, reading books is just like gaining experiences from other people. Because you don't have time in your life to gain all your personal life experiences.
Yeah.
He said, you gain life experiences from two ways: your personal or through other people.
I'm going to turn this air down. I'm sweating.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, shit. It's going to look really awkward.
What's that?
Well, because I'm not going to cut this out, so it's going to be like 8 seconds of you just staring at me and not saying anything. It's going to be great.
I'm staring at you for 2 hours.
But yeah, so that's what podcasts are. But that's what all the media are. They're distilling down information for you to absorb. I mean, you didn't have, when you read Mattis's book, you weren't there in Afghanistan when they launched the largest marine amphibious raid ever. You know what I mean? But you get to hear the perspective of that. And maybe not all the planning and whatnot, but you get kind of an idea. He gets to talk about his ideas, what influenced him and whatnot. So, but
yeah. Talking about books.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie. How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is by far my favorite book.
Really?
In my life, that I read it once a year, and whenever someone says, "What's your favorite book, John?" How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie.
How did you find that book?
I'm glad you asked. This simple-minded guy. I was Tower Watch supervisor at Moody.
Yep.
Just minding my own business. I cared about developing people and like influencing people, but I was just in the Air Force. I think I might have had a line number for tech. Maybe I was just a staff at the time when I met you. Mm-hmm. Man, I was just happy. I thought I was so important because, oh, look, I made tech. Like, I'm important. But everybody does that. Or many people do. Not everyone. But it's, in the moment when you make an accomplishment, you think it's so big, but it's really not. Like, it's most people in the Air Force are going to hit that rank. But I just remember being up there, and then I forgot how. Like, I did not like reading at that time. Like, I had read a few books. I think like Holes by whoever it is. That movie was like my favorite book at that time. The dude freaking dug holes and he escaped. he didn't.
Stanley Yelnats.
Yeah, and then I forgot how you. Because the first time you told me about the book, I didn't read it. I just like kind of blew it off, like, whatever. Yeah. But somehow, and I don't remember exactly how, but you should have bought it for me. That's what you should do to influence people. Buy that book for people. But so you talked me into it, so I just bought it, $10, whatever it was. And I just remember reading the first paragraph, our first chapter, first two chapters. Yeah. And it just resonated. They tell you this concept about how to get people to like you, and then a story that follows. Yeah. And you're just like, well, that makes sense. Yeah. And then it's like, well, read it again. Okay. And so you read it again, and you're like, oh, these really make sense. Yeah. Like, man, so ever since I read that book, I read that book once a year, and I just know, like, there's so much just simple concepts of, my favorite is just knowing someone's name. Like, I have learned when you tell me your name and I remember it, and I tell you my name, and then like 10 minutes later I call you Brian, and the person just, oh, what's this dude's name?
Yeah.
He knows my name. I'm important. I like this guy. Like, you just see it.
You see it. Yeah.
Yep.
It's palpable.
Exactly. And that's just the most simplest concept. And they have so many more. It's like 18 more chapters of just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that book I think is close to 100 years old.
Yeah. It's 1800s, 1890s. Yeah,
I think it was like 1918 or 1938 or something like that. Those 2 years come to mind. But yeah, I read it and I kind of had the same experience. Like, man, these are like pretty rad concepts, and they make sense. And one of the gripes I have about like, I'm sure you saw this in NCOA, and I'm not sure if you have the same feeling as I do, but people will bitch and complain about all this academically backed, multi-million-dollar research that the Air Force is providing, and they will complain about it.
Yeah, it's fun to complain.
Yeah, right. But then worse, they'll get back to their units and they'll ignore all of it.
Sure.
And they're giving you like all this information that like I've had to pay money to learn. You know what I mean? Of course, I got it for free, but I paid money before I got the experience in the Air Force to do it. And they're all good. Like, it's all good stuff. When I worked a year at the bank, we would go to like monthly seminars, right? And our district manager was trying to give this information to all the branch managers that were in attendance. And I'm thinking like, man, I learned this. I read this from this book. You know what I mean? I learned this at NCOA. I learned this at ALS. And it always frustrated me that like people would complain about how they can't influence, younger people, or they can't get production out of their human capital. And it's like, well, what are you doing differently? Like, are you applying these actual principles, or are you just going back and saying, yeah, it was a great experience, I got drunk, a bunch, which you should do that too, but are you actually applying the principles you're being taught? I mean, how did you respond to NCOA? Like,
I think had I not read that book, I might not have liked it as much, but I do like enjoy that stuff. And like, I'm curious to know what avenues you've paid to learn leadership principles since you've gotten out.
Well, since I've gotten out, none. Because I did it before, like it was part of.
Before you joined?
No. Before I got those opportunities, because I was in school, and so I learned about these opportunities. So I would pay for like a small course or here and there or whatever, because I look around. I dive down a path that I'm interested in. So I have a podcast studio. You know what I mean?
No, you do really well.
So I've got a wood shop. I dive down the rabbit holes of things that I find interesting, and that's just what I do.
No, I think, I think you ended up really well. I wouldn't say this about everyone. I'll answer your NCOA question, but just like, I wouldn't want to trade lives with anybody, really. I'm content. But like, if I had to trade lives with people, like you, obviously, if I can't just pick a celebrity, like the way you do things, the way you are, like it's pretty cool. And like,
well, I appreciate that, man.
So I wish sometimes I could just, what would Brian think in this situation? Like, even before this podcast, things we were talking about, like, oh, like that makes so much sense. And like, I wish it was recorded so I could like re-listen to that sometime. And just like, your thoughts are really unique. And I think maybe you don't. I think you know who you are and you accept who you are. And I'm pretty close to that. But there's still these things I've done and like will say, and I'm like, like, am I saying this because I really believe it, or is something influencing me to say this?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Is it because I know who I am? No, I think it's because I don't know who I am.
You don't think you know who you are?
No, man.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what I am, honestly. Like because I'm man, let me get into this real quick. So I've wrestled with this idea for the past couple of years, and it's the religious idea of like, what is the value of the Bible, and is the Bible actually a collection of stories describing a divine experience that humans had with a God, a savior, a prophet, so on and so forth? It could be, but maybe it's also a series of stories compiled into a manuscript, handed down through time, that says that is a metaphor to say that it's not that a divine person exists, or it's not just that a divine person exists, but that you are the divine person. You are the all-powerful, the unlimited potential. You are omnipotent, omniscient. You can build anything. You can destroy anything. You can be everywhere. Well, that's pretty godlike. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, all the buildings that have ever existed have been created by man. Society itself was created by man Culture was created by man. Everything we know is cultivated by man. It has to be handed down through man. Information itself was created, cultivated, organized, compiled, and handed down by man. And if knowledge is power, well then we seem to have tapped into the unlimited potential of what power is. And so it feeds into this idea that potentially what's going on here is that we are the God. And I'm not trying to say something that's sacrilegious. It's just an idea that I've been that came to mind, and I can't help but think that there might be some truth to that, because all the stories that kind of exist, and not just the Bible, but it could be the case that it's a collection of stories designed to teach us about ourselves. And I like to point to like Abraham. Abraham was 70 years old when God talked to him and convinced him to leave living with his parents to go out and start literally the population of the world. You know? Why? Why at 70 years old? Well, maybe that's a message that you could toil your life away and live with your parents and accomplish nothing, but it's never too late to start and build something amazing. Cain and Abel. It's the duality of it's the duality of the competing brothers. One person's sacrifice towards God is better than the others, but the person that didn't sacrifice much is resentful. So resentful that he gets mad and angry at God and kills his brother. People that have brothers can probably resonate with that.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's saying like don't be this, you know? Love your brother, love each other. But it could be the case that we are the God. So I don't know who or what I am, because I think that we all are everything, you know? Like I could be a white guy, you know, but I'm also a quarter Hispanic, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You know, I'm a bunch of things. So are you. So it's not about what we are. I think it's understanding maybe everything that we are and being on a lifelong path of discovery to discover all the things that we are and all the things that we could be. I think that's the path I'm on. That's the path I hope I'm on. And I don't know if I'll figure it out, but I feel like I'm getting closer.
Where do you want to be? Like, 10 years from now? Do you think you'll have it figured out?
No.
Will you be a lot further than you are right now?
Of course. Tomorrow I'll be a lot further. Yeah. Because I'll be spending time with you. You know?
Hopefully I can guide you that
Somebody
way.
I love and enjoy and I get to catch up with and spend time with and, you know, have a podcast with. And
yeah, I wish I had something more like just to reflect on like what you said. Like I'm not super religious, so I can't reflect on that. It makes sense what you said, but that's something I think men don't say enough. Like, I do love you. Like, God, I don't say that very often, you know? And it's like, but for you to say that to me, just in that split second you said it, I felt so much better. I was like, that's really nice for you to say that. Like, I'm here for freaking 48 hours and you like found time to like bring me in here. Like that's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it should be, to your point, it should be more, I guess, nuanced. Like, but it should be understood. I mean, then again, like, I believe that you probably have some love for me. I'd never expect you to say that. It's just something that I know that people, you know, like to hear, and it's true.
It is.
So if people like to hear it and it's true, why not say it? I've told Stocking I loved him. I've told Buddha I loved him, you know. I've told my students, you know, I love you all and I want you to do well. You know, and it's not that there's something nasty about that. It's that I have a genuine interest and care for your well-being. I want you to do well. It pains me when you don't do well. When I had my first student fail and wash back, I was surprised. I told my supervisor this. I was surprised at how hard I took that. Because I thought that I was doing everything I could. And first of all, that person was not somebody I thought would fail. So it was surprising too, but it was odd how much I gave a shit about that. Because honestly, like you're going to get another chance. Who cares? But it felt like I could have done something better. And I don't know if I could have, you know, and maybe that was the end of the potential. But I felt the same way like when we had a guy. I don't mean to monopolize this podcast about you.
No, it's not about me. It's about us. But keep talking. I'm listening. I'm going to grab my jacket. I got a little.
Okay. So, well, if you want, you can turn that dial. It's on high cool. Turn it to like medium cool. That'll probably work. But anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, there was a guy, shout out to VT at Hurlburt Field. he's a great dude. And I told you before this, like, I've never seen somebody wash out of ATC that was coachable, that could subordinate themselves to the process. You know what I mean? Yep. That could accept that they were part of a rite and ritual to become an air traffic controller in this highly tribal career field. But oftentimes people that do wash out, they're not coachable. Mm-hmm. They don't appreciate the process. They don't like being the junior people in the facility. But he was none of those bad things. He was everything. He worked really hard. And it finally got to the point where I had to say, like, man, I'm sorry, we can't move you to another crew. I think it's run its course. And what I really appreciated about VT was that he was like, yes, sir, I understand. Thank you for the time you took. You know, like he was very appreciative, and that hurt even more because it was like, here's the guy that makes me a liar. Because I tell everybody, like, as long as you're coachable, you do all these things, like, you'll be fine. And he was the exception. And so that was no longer true for me. And so that was crushing because I believe that. Luckily. So I left, and people changed in that facility. He ended up getting rated.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I called him. I told him, it was fantastic. I was proud of him. I apologized that we couldn't get it done. That's a hole in maybe my management style or the way that I, led the training, whatever the case may be. But I was proud that he was a part of the Air Force Air Traffic Control Corps.
What was his initials?
Victor Tango.
Yeah, so maybe VT do that conversation, and then he got that second chance. Like, I'm gonna maybe change Brian's mind here. Like, you might have had influence on whether or not you know it or not. That conversation.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I'm gonna say because I respect the people at Hurlburt. They got it right.
Good.
There was something I didn't do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't bring that to completion, and I think that's they deserve all the credit for that.
That's cool. Yeah, I think difficult conversations with people, like with what you had at VT, is something people just avoid at all costs.
I don't understand the difficulty.
Yeah, I do. Like, you said you were heartbroken. Like, I'd rather not be heartbroken and maybe, like, obviously not anymore, but I could see a moment in my life, and I can reflect on this many situations, but one in particular, where it's such a difficult thing to talk to someone that it's like, well, I could just not have this conversation, and someone higher ranking than me has to have it, so I don't have to think about it every day and talk about it on a podcast 2.5 years later. Like, obviously you still think about that.
Yeah.
But good thing VT figured it out so you can feel a little bit better.
Again, I just want to hit that I think that the people there around VT probably had a lot to do with that too. Because he can't. What's that?
Like before, like you took over and had.
No. When I left and I was out of the equation, VT gets rated. The people involved deserve that.
Awesome.
And primarily because VT can't rate himself. VT can't train himself. He's got to have people that are plugged in position with him, watching everything, giving him advice and feedback, running the sims. So it's I had the least amount to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. VT had a smaller part than I think everybody else did. Cool. Obviously, he's got to do it himself. He's got to pass his rating. But at the end of the day, to get him there, get him to that point, it takes many more people.
Yep. So there's this kid, when I was at Offutt, the first person I ever trained, his name was Tanner Newton. I forget his initials. KC, I think. He's from Kansas City. And I know, because he's a huge Chiefs fan, and now that's all I hear from him. Still talk to him to this day. But I was a brand new, I rated, I might have been a senior and maybe still A1C, and he was like a month younger than me, and he just came out of tech school, and that was who I was told to train. This is my first trainee. Yeah. And I remember, like, yes, I have, like, influence. This is my person.
Yeah.
I own this person.
Yeah.
I was so proud of it. But then pretty quickly, the evals had to get written. Like, I had to spend time with him when I could just play on my phone or just sit in the break room and do nothing.
And so for those who don't know, air traffic control is one of the few career fields. Few. And I say few because I don't know that any exist where you have to do paper evaluations. Like, there's no TBA, there's no digital, training process, which I think is, you can fix that, but that's a separate conversation. Yeah, exactly. But so it's a high workload, and you have to evaluate every single day.
Yep.
You have to describe situations on paper that are occurring in traffic, live traffic. It's a heavy workload for a trainer in air traffic control.
And instead of learning how to do it correctly, I saw other people just not care about their trainees, so I just didn't care. And I was like, he'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. That was just my attitude. I was 20, 21 at the time. And it showed, like, and he's the smartest dude. Like, we played Word Boggle, and I don't think he's ever lost a game of Word Boggle. He's never lost a game of chess. Like, this guy is just so smart, and also, like, one of the boys. He doesn't overthink things. And I just, as a trainer, I just didn't give a fuck about him. Like, and I should have. And I only cared, and it's going to sound really selfish, but, like, I only cared when someone asked, like, how is his training going? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm about to run a sim. Like, that's what it would take to influence me at that time.
Yeah.
And, like, he went into edit, and that's when I realized, like...
So edit, experience difficulty in training.
Yes.
That's an ATC status.
I feel like this is just an air traffic podcast.
Right. I just got some... I'll take care of it. You're good.
I'll just keep being me.
Yeah, you're good.
So I fucked this dude over, didn't teach him much, and they stick him in this, and I didn't even... as a trainer, I didn't know this, but then they call this meeting between me, Tanner, my trainee, someone else... William Green's his name. I don't know what his position was at the time. And then our chief controller, who's like the manager of the facility.
Yeah, yep.
And they're like, hey, you have some evals, you're in edit, you got a lot of unsets, what's going on here? And like Tanner, he was like beat about it, and I was like, whoa, like I fucked this dude. Like I can't remember ever like doing Q&A with him. I never did a sim with him. And like now this dude's about to lose this great job because my ass didn't care. And like they're like, we're gonna give you 50% more time. And that's when I cared. But then also they were like, and you're getting a new trainer, TP, you won't be training him. And I was like, oh, like dang it. Like now I have no influence on this.
So how did you feel? Like what hurt the most? And this is not an intro to a Rascal Flatts song.
It's being so close. No, just like in that moment, like I realized Tanner's not good because I was more interested in playing whatever cool phone game was popular at that time that I no longer know about. And my paycheck was the same. And this dude's about to lose this great job, and he was one of my best friends there. And I know you're not supposed to be friends, you're 3 level. I was at the time. I know you shouldn't be. I was. And he was about to get washed out over this. And luckily, they gave him Paul M. At the time, a better controller than me. I was. Maybe he still is. I haven't worked with him in a while. And Paul M. figured Tanner out, and Tanner got rid and ended up being a great controller. But like that's what it took. And then I got another dude, Chase Willis, who was in local. I don't know if he was in edit, but that was another dude that I love and still talk to this day. And like I didn't take that same. Like I learned from fucking Tanner over, and I never fucked it up again.
Yeah, it's interesting how almost like you almost cost somebody a career field. Oh,
I did. And
did you ever tell him that?
I want to say yes, but I can't remember it, so probably not. And I'm gonna call him after this, and then tell him there's a podcast out about me feeling like a dickhead for fucking him over. But he knew, like he probably knows I probably did. We drink a lot, so I'm sure it came up because it's been on. I've thought about it, but he got rated. So, and that's one of those things. Like instead of saying I fucked him over, it's like nah, everything worked out. Like he's good.
Yeah, but again, the ethic there is like, well, in spite of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, not to dig it up, but just to have like these are the conversations I wish people would have at work. It's like I don't know, man. You can't have a conversation with somebody and say like, here, I'll describe it like this. I've always told people, imagine what the Air Force would be like if we approached every conversation, every issue, every discussion with fighting to take responsibility. You know what I mean? Instead of, if I have a problem with you, maybe I could have said, well, look, man, I could have done this, this, and this. And you say, well, no, hold on. Like you did this and this. I could have done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And imagine how different the conversation and the outcome would be if we're fighting to take responsibility.
Yep.
Because in order to fight to take responsibility, you have to be okay with the other person in their actions. That's a different perspective to take.
Yeah. If you don't take responsibility, you don't have the ability to change.
Boom.
Like, boom. Yeah.
Show it.
No, I agree. Yeah. It's a Jocko Willink book. I forget what it's called. It's something about extreme ownership.
Extreme ownership.
That's it. That one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Because before that book even came out at Moody, I remember you telling me something like that. Like if separation, like if two aircraft got too close to each other, like don't you want to just take the blame for that? And I'd be like, no, motherfucker. but then you won't learn or like take it more serious. And I'm like, I guess you're right.
Or better yet. I mean, because I'm in a civilian leadership course this week, and man,
can I come?
What's that?
Can I come?
Yeah, get out. But a lot of it is just packaging up ALS and NCO. It's an initiative by the base. It's a good initiative just to kind of get, some civilians don't have any military experience. Mm-hmm. For me, it's just a refresher and, something I get to put on a resume. But man, I kind of forgot where I was going with that. What were we talking about? Ownership. So when you take ownership of something, right? What are you doing? It's mine.
Oh, you try to make it better.
Well, yeah, but like fundamentally, if I own something, it's mine.
Sure.
Okay, and so you take it, you own it. Nobody else can have it. Now, it's important, I think, to state who had influence and responsibility. But at the end of the day, it's got to start with somebody. I'll give you a good story. So when I was in aircraft maintenance, I was, first of all, we're probably looking at the best two air traffic controllers in the Air Force right now.
Probably.
And I'm definitely staring at the second. Anyway.
But that would imply But I got a really good story after that. Okay. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. But you keep talking, I'm going to write it down. I'm listening.
So, but I've always had the kind of chip on my shoulder, and I hold myself to that standard, right? Mm-hmm. In aircraft maintenance, I was the same way. I wanted to be the best mechanic, but mechanics came easy to me because I was a mechanic prior to coming in. And so I was a senior airman, and there was a C-17 that was launching. It was an active duty mission, right? Now the plane next to us, and these were the only two mission capable planes on the flight line, was a reserve mission, lower priority. The fire engine lights were tested. One of them didn't come on. Now all I have to do, I think I can still remember the circuit breaker location like row India circuit breaker 14. If I would have pulled that circuit breaker, it de-energizes the whole system. If I mess with it, and I do something wrong, nothing happens. But this fire engine light was on a T-handle, and these T-handles on aircraft are designed to, if there's a fire in the engine, it lights up, the pilot grabs it, pulls it, and then that shuts down the engine, right? Because it shuts off the fuel. And then if the fire still persists, you turn it one way and it fires a pyrotechnic that fires a fire extinguishing agent into the engine to put out the fire. If you turn the other way, it fires the reserve bottle. So I pull it out because I got to get access to the bulbs, and I pull it out real carefully, pop it out, put the bulbs in, put the cap back on, and I push it in. Now I've shot these bottles in a simulator because I was insurance qualified, so I had to train in the actual simulator, and they simulate engine fires, and boom, pull, click, done. But in a simulator, you turn 90 degrees. So in my mind, I had plenty of room, but I pushed that thing in, and my hand slipped, and I heard a pop, and on the annunciator panel, it said bottle 1 out. I fired a pyrotechnic into an engine. A few things have to happen after that. An engine inspection, right? So the plane can't fly. And also the bottle has to be replaced. There was 0 quantity worldwide for this bottle. There was 0 in the Air Force supply system in the entire world.
They don't exist.
They do not exist. This is a true story, 100% true story. And, but this is a real world mission, so it has to leave. So the reserve crew next door gets bumped off that plane. The cargo goes over there. This active duty crew takes over that plane.
All because of you.
All because of me. But it gets worse. This active duty crew, they're paid to come out to get their training. They're given hotels, per diem, flight pay, all this stuff for those 3 days that they're there. Well, guess what? There's no usable aircraft on the flight line now. They can't train, which means they get paid that weekend. And they have to come out another weekend in that month, which means they can't work their jobs, which means they have to be away from their families, which means the Air Force has to pay them again to do the training they should have done already. That's the impact of that, okay? Now, what I did was, and my idea of ownership stems from this day. And so
this made you feel what you told me 5 years ago.
This moment, yeah. Okay. And so what I did was I got on the radio. I said I needed to be picked up and taken into the AMU, the aircraft maintenance unit. And I go in, I find my senior Thomas. At the time, became Chief Thomas. Great dude. Could probably fit through a crack in the wall. Like very, very skinny dude. But a great leader. Awesome dude. Those that are listening to this from Travis and in my aircraft maintenance background will know exactly who I'm talking about. But I said, sir, whatever you're doing, we need to talk. There's a mask. I say, look, you're about to hear about me not using a TO, because in aircraft maintenance, you have to use a TO, write up the jobs, all these things. That's another, in this case, about 15 minutes worth of work I didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. I'm just replacing bulbs, right? So I said, this is what I did. This is what happened. This is what is being lost. We can't fix it probably in the next week or more, because we have to develop one out of manufacturing, but I want you to know there's no fight to be had on my end. I did this. I was the only one involved. And whatever comes down, Article 15, whatever, I will not fight. I want it to be over. I love this unit. Let's just get it done. And he said, at the time, because this could have changed my career entirely. And he said, Airman Belford, I appreciate that. This will go a long way. So 2 weeks go by and nothing. I don't hear anything, right? I don't ask about it either, but it's like when someone says, hey, we need to talk, right? And you say, well, now? No, tomorrow. Oh, God. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now this is 2 weeks, and I'm thinking Article 15, loss of stride, forfeiture of pay, maybe jail time at Vandenberg. I don't know.
2 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm coming to work, still working. I might have even taken a quick mission because I was a flying crew chief there. And at the time, I was a flying crew chief, hot shit, and not everyone gets to be a flying crew chief, it's kind of elite, mechanics, kind of thing. And I finally go into his office and say, hey, look, I got to know, what am I looking at, He goes, nothing, you're good. And I said, "Are you?" Thomas? And I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah. Look, obviously what you did was wrong, but I mean, you atoned to it. What else are we going to do to teach you a lesson?" He's like, "You've got a good record with us. You don't have any issues. You don't lose tools, nothing like that." And I mean, from that day forward, it was like ownership.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Chief, we need more Chief Thomases.
I know.
Maybe not so skinny. It's hard to admire someone that looks like that, but that mentality.
It was real windy at Travis too, and I was kind of worried about him. But no, great dude, salt to the earth kind of guy. But that's where all that comes from. It's and my advice to people is always if you fuck up, you say, "I fucked up.
Yeah,
this is mine. This is my sword to bear. This is my burden." And I'll tell you, it feels really good too.
I bet. Yeah, I can't feel any more guilt than I'm already accepted.
It moves you past it, and think about what you save from the people. If you decided to say, and again, depending on the thing, if it's circumstantial, I've probably got $300,000 of aircraft damage under my belt, including that one. But when you own it, you don't make anybody have to work for it. It's kind of like the whole basis, the philosophy behind our legal structure, right? If you admit to it, you get a lesser sentence.
Yep.
So it's really in your best interest.
Yeah. I figured if you talked me into this, or it was you, but I lost my ratings at Moody. I was on the desk, and
I remember this.
OR was watching a trainee in position, and we had Johnny Laws was in flight data, and the trainee and local tried to clear an aircraft for takeoff with another aircraft on final. You have to have about 3 miles between them. Mm-hmm. And it was really close. And Johnny Laws and data was like, that's not going to work. And then me and OR were like, yeah, Johnny's right. Let's hold him short. And so we held him short. And then another same situation happens 10 minutes later. The trainee clears him. Johnny Laws, guys, that's not going to work. Yeah, Johnny Laws is right. Let's hold him short. And so we hold him short. Overkey the trainee, and then it happens a third time. The trainee clears it for takeoff, and Johnny Laws is like, "That's not going to work." I was like, and in my head, well, there's more space this time. It's probably going to work. Doesn't work. Did not work.
Turns out Johnny Laws was right.
Johnny Laws was right.
And he doesn't get enough credit for how much because he's kind of eccentric, great dude, but he's a bit eccentric, and he doesn't get enough credit, man.
Yeah, and dude, I talked to him. Man, I was pretty sore, so maybe 2 weeks later after this happened, you lose your ratings. You don't want to talk.
Yeah.
But he was right. I was like, no, this one will work. Doesn't work. We probably have a mile. You need 3 miles. We have a mile between the second departing lieutenant and the C-130. So me and OR go down as deserved. Like, I think Andreas Smith was the chief controller, and it was the right call. I didn't have separation. I was on the desk. Me and OR deserved to lose our ratings. And everyone was shook about it, including the trainee and see, everyone is like, you always feel bad when someone else. And I remember being bummed out about it, and then the chief controller wanted us to like do a debrief for everyone, and I was like, I don't want to do this. This is embarrassing. And I think it was you that was like, dude, just own it. Like, people still respect you. Like, you're still a good controller. Everyone loves who you are. And I was like, okay, yeah, thanks, man. Like, I still don't feel great, but I feel a little better.
Yeah.
And then when I gave that brief, I remember saying, I cleared an aircraft for takeoff with another aircraft, and I didn't do a go around. I should have done a go around, and we had the playback, so I got to like point it out. And instead of saying the trainee or the local controller or CT didn't, I just from the desk, I did this, I did that, and I like could remember OR looking at me like as I was saying it, and like I shouldn't get proud of that, but I was like, yeah, like this is on me. This is on me, and it's my fault. And I'm sorry OR lost his rating because I should have been a better soup and done something. I should have listened to Johnny Laws. He's a smart dude.
Yeah.
The dude was a DG in ALS. He never like misses a question on a protest. Like, why didn't I listen to him for 3 times in a row? Damn it, Johnny.
So what do you think OR learned or felt in that moment?
Whew. I bet he felt he wasn't. He kind of adopted my attitude. I think he was apologetic to me that I lost my ratings with him. And OR knows this. He's very loud and kind of obnoxious, and he knows not everyone likes him. So I bet he's
OP now at the schoolhouse.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Just like OP's an asshole, or like
we're talking Osborne, right?
Oh, his initials are OP now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I am talking about Osborne, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Hopefully he's cool with me sharing this, but I thought you meant OP as in like stalking. Like
No. He asked stalking to if he could use his rating, so now he's OP at the schoolhouse.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'll say this.
Do you mind just asking Osborne why he didn't pick TP?
I can do that.
I probably won't sleep tonight.
But yeah, I mean, because again, I'm glad we confirmed that, because Osborne's a very principled person.
Yeah.
But you took the weight from him.
Maybe.
And I wonder if you can appreciate maybe relieving him of that weight, how he may have valued that.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
Or what that taught him.
Yeah, it's one of those things like sides reversed. I don't know if I would have learned anything, but in the moment, I would have felt a little better. Like if I could blame someone else, if I could be like, I don't know.
It definitely lightens the load, and we talk about leadership in terms of like, well, what are you as a leader doing to make things better? They say like this whole thing, lead from the front. Mm-hmm. And the image that comes to mind for me, I don't know about you, but the image where it shows a block being pulled and people pulling the block, and the leader is pointing where to go, and he's carrying the cable tow as well, but he's leading the people that are pulling, mm-hmm. instead of being the person that's sitting on top of the block while the people are pulling. And so it's the idea that he's pulling the weight as well. Yeah. And in a way, because there is weight to that, there's public speaking, there's admitting fault, there's a potential view of weakness, and in a travel career field like air traffic control, where your ratings are everything, and you're having to now go in front of your peers and say, this is where I wasn't, as good as I'm telling you to be. Yep. Boy, that takes a lot of courage. And I have no doubt that was weighing on his mind. I don't care how confident or cocky he is. Nobody in the context of the tribal organization, I don't believe for a second that he was just okay with that. And I have the firm belief that you alleviated some of that pressure.
I'd like to hope so. And it alleviated pressure for me.
I'm going to ask him about that.
Yeah, you should. It's funny, actually. You have to ask him if he kept this. That day when it happened, I knew we were losing our ratings. And I think we went 3 more days only sleeping 2 hours a night before they told us we were getting S's. The CT guy went down with us too, unfortunately, because I was telling him what to do. He shouldn't have, but he did. I guess actually he should have. He could have. No opinion on it. He went down with us. Yeah. But I remember taking the strip. I forget the call sign of the C-130, but I took that strip And then I went to Walmart and had it framed. And like after we lost our ratings, maybe a week later, I like met Russell in the parking lot. We actually got closer through this, and I like gifted him this framed picture of the flight strip where he lost his ratings. I kind of wanted to keep it for myself because it looked kind of cool. Like it was the first time you lost your ratings, bro. And I wonder if he still has.
How'd he take that?
He laughed. He was like, "All right."
I love that, man.
He laughed and he took it.
I absolutely love that. He loved it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those same things where like Chris Pratt told us.
Don't forget, I did replicate the strip, so there was one filed, and I took the original. Just finished the chief.
These views are mine and not that of the.
We got him. He took a strip that has to be documented by AFMAN 13204 Volume 3.
Everybody, all right, guys, come on in. Come in. We got him. We found the culprit of that one strip of aircraft that were a mile away from each other.
No, go ahead. That was important to get out. You have to ask if he kept it.
No, I will. Yeah, that's. I'm kind of curious. I would bet he did.
Yeah.
Because so there's a story about Chris Pratt. Have you ever watched Parks and Rec? Because I'll use a different example.
I like The Office, but no.
Okay. I'll just tell this. There's a scene where he jumps. He thinks that his girlfriend is answering the door, but it ends up being another girl, and so he's supposed to jump in front, and the scene is him naked because he's coming home to his girlfriend's house, and then the the bit is the person that answers the door is not the person he thinks it is, and she's surprised because, he's nude, right? Mm-hmm. And so they do a couple takes, and they didn't get the right surprise face from the actress, Amy Poehler, and so he had apparently asked the sound guy if this would be a good idea for him to just be actually nude, and the sound guy was like, yeah, totally. Like he's not a producer, director, or anything. And so he does. And so he's naked, and they get a different reaction. And it turns out that's the clip that they used in the show. But he gets a letter from NBC that's like, "Do not ever do this again. You are formally reprimanded." There's like a protocol apparently formally reprimanded, and he says like. He's got it framed in his office. Like, it's awesome. Like, so they're not making a major mistake like that. Like, honestly, you do kind of want to remember it, I'll give you a better example. I didn't get a going away gift from Moody. I didn't expect one.
I got 48 hours. I'll get you one.
No. I had one made, and it was really nice. Had an A10 in the foreground. I should have brought it. I kind of want to put it up in here, but it's got the squadron emblem on it, all this stuff, and it said... Text Sergeant Belford, thank you for all your hard work and sacrifice. You taught us that coming together to destroy careers is still teamwork. We wish you continued hardship and hateful feelings in the future.
I have no opinion on that.
Yeah,
so you made it for yourself?
Yeah. Well, it was also kind of indicating for me. I mean, we don't have to get into it, but like, Moon was not a good, assignment.
Not that I'm like this great person. I think I contribute to the Air Force. I do. But like a lot of like the things that I know and do come from you. Like the year and a half we had together, where I remember being at your tech sergeant promotion ceremony, and I won't say who, but I barely knew, and I remember sitting next to someone, won't say who. I was like, hey, I didn't know that guy was promoting. Like, you were the only one in our squadron promoting, and we were all there. And I didn't even know you. I knew you were in the RapCon. That's it. I was like, how is that guy there? And that person didn't. He was like, have your own opinion of them. They didn't. So which usually means I don't like them. Everyone knows that. And then I was like, you know what? Okay. So I walked up there and congratulated you on. You put on in July. This guy's a first timer, staff and tech, and I had just made tech, so I was like, okay, well, this guy's a year ahead of me, and we're the same age, or I think you're a year older than me, so we're on the same line here. And I just wanted to at least talk to you because I knew that about you, but I didn't know you. And I remember walking up to you, and saying like, hey man, congrats on making tech. That's awesome. Like I can't wait to be where you're at in like a year or so from now. And instead of you just like we had never really talked, instead of you just saying thanks, you're like, oh hey, Tisue, yeah, like I know of you. But I haven't really talked to you. Like it's something very similar to that. And it was, you were trying to talk to me, and I just like was shady towards you because that guy didn't like you. So I probably won't.
I remember this. You weren't.
don't know if we've ever talked about this before.
No.
So you're reflecting this thing from 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I remember thinking like, why is he making this so awkward? Like, because, and again,
it probably was awkward.
Well, at the time, because again, there was such a culture at Moody. I thought, like, in my mind, if it was awkward, I always had this thought, they got to him. Always had this thought, but I wouldn't let that affect the conversation. I was trying to still be engaging with people because I know that I wasn't like what people said, and people that got to know me knew that wasn't the case, but there was just a cancer there, and unfortunately, it infected.
That's too bad. Yeah. I guess I don't want to say that word that it was a cancer, but obviously it did like affect our first interaction. I thought, if this person doesn't like you, maybe a lot of people don't like you.
Yeah,
so I was
for sure.
hesitant to like meet you, and then it wasn't until you came up to the tower and Dale Carnegie'd my ass by just asking me for an hour, like, hey, what do you want to do? What are you about? Just Dale Carnegie, just let someone talk about themselves and they're gonna love you. And that was his first thing. You were like not even front load rated at Moody Tower, just talking to me about what I want to do, and I was like, I really like this guy. You just let me talk about me for an hour. Yeah, and that's something I've done, like, going forward. It's like, you just let people talk, and you've got them.
Well, there's
more,
You can take a selfish perspective on this. There's a philosophy of objectivism by Ayn Rand. She's a philosopher, and she's an author that created this philosophy of objectivism, and it's the idea that the pursuit of self-interest is a moral good. Yeah. So like, if I do something nice for someone, I say, well, assume I did it for a selfish reason, like maybe I was trying to find out like how I could help you. If I knew the things that you wanted to accomplish, maybe I could help you. And maybe because this is how I had to think at Moody, because it was so ass backwards there. If I could help you achieve the things that you wanted to achieve, maybe you might help me achieve the things that I want to achieve. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the way Moody worked, you were in the position to do that, even though I was the higher ranking person.
You were.
So it was like that's how I approached it, and it was like, well, I can't really. I'll affect what I can affect, and I did that with everybody. I tried everything I could to try and help people achieve their goals. Because I was desperate.
That's cool. You can admit that. A lot of people wouldn't say that. Like.
Yeah, well, I was boxed in. I was quite literally boxed in, and it. I don't know how deep I'll go into it, but I went pretty far down the rabbit hole. I struggled with like an alcohol addiction because of that place. It was a terrible experience for me. It was the worst experience of my life, and it was just a terrible experience, man.
Yeah, dude. And I hear some of the words you're saying, and I know we've talked about this before, so we don't need to have this on here, but dude, yeah, I get it. And I know you didn't have the best time there, but you influenced me a lot. I know you influenced Osborne and a bunch of other people there. And it sucks to know you went through such a hard time, and it really sucks that you got out, because I was really excited to see how far you got, Yeah. You should be. Chief Davis, Billy Davis, career field manager, was in our course day, and I could see like you doing that. Like you were just this guy that always cares, is always influential, always wants the best. But I guess sometimes when you're too forward, people don't like it.
Yeah, well, it had to do with the particular civilian there that just had. That's where it started. I got that wrong. That civilian, which is fine. It taught me a lot about civilians, and I had a great time at Hurlburt Field. I love all the people there, all the civilians. The chief control that was there. Shout out to Jerome Cole and Herbert Hayes. That they were people that really helped me out over there. So, and I gave them everything I could, in return. Well, I tried to do that for everybody there, but yeah.
Just. What you said a minute ago, something I definitely want to talk about. I just don't want to record it forever. Like whenever this ends, we're gonna talk about that.
Well, we can talk about it. I'll just cut it out if I don't want to talk about it.
All right, and we restarted.
Just kidding.
Here we are, motherfucker. We had our talk. I don't want any of this edited. I want to watch this 10 years from now. For when do I retire? I guess I can retire in like 7 years, if 8 years. I guess 20. I joined in 2009. Yeah, November 2008. So whenever I retire, if it's 20 or 30 years, at my retirement ceremony, we'll just play this podcast. You'll be some big Joe Rogan by then.
No, man, it's I want this to be more about you, honestly, but
I like it.
I mean,
I want to listen to 2 of yours. I want to say, I think 2.5. I think I was driving once, but like it is cool. Like I guess, yeah, I don't know. Do they talk about you much on these?
No, because it's not. Like, man, I could get on here and just talk about myself, but it's like you're on here because I think you're a really interesting person. I want to talk to you.
All right, ask me a question.
You know?
Answer. Oh wait, so I came up with a moment for best.
Oh
moment
yeah,
of
that's right. That's right.
And I want to say it's best moment, but it's probably just something that came up, and I was like, this was a really important moment to me. And there's a guy named Michael Preciado. He got out as a senior airman. I met him at Osan.
I think this person came up on my Facebook feed.
He's a controller, so you probably have a lot of people you may know, and I've tagged him in things. He looks similar, maybe a few inches taller than me. But I met him at Osan. He got out. He's a GS11, I think, at Luke now. And
okay.
He's 4 years younger than us. I think he's 25, 26.
There you go.
But before that, he went to Afghanistan for contracting. And then he decided, hey, TP, I know you. I know another dude named Garrett Geekus in Italy. I really just want to see you guys. Can you meet me at Frankfurt? And I was like, well, when? He's like, this date. And I was like, yes, it's a weekend. I'll be there. I'm staff. I get the weekends off as deserved. Yeah. And so I go out to Frankfurt to meet this guy, and he's like, meet me at this soccer game. And I was like, okay. So we meet at a soccer game, like in the stadium, in our seats. I get there first, and he shows up, and I bring my friend Alex, and he brings Garrett, another dude we were at Osan with. And so we meet up at the soccer game. We drink beers. You just do it at a soccer or a football game. And I think his team wins. I don't care about soccer that much, but I was there to see my buddy, and he's just really happy to see me. And it made me feel good. Like this guy that I worked with at Osan, he was on a different schedule than me. I didn't hang out with him all that. I mean, I did hang out with him, but not as much as I hung out with Brian Sigelski or Alex, like my other friends there. And this guy just really wanted to see me, and I was like, oh, cool. I'll see you. I got the weekend off. Yeah. And so we hang out, and he's like, man, it's just really good to see you, dude. You're such a big influence on me. And it's like, him saying that probably meant nothing to him. But to me, I was like, wow, like maybe I am starting to influence people. That's
how I feel when you say, if I tell you something, right, I'm just giving you advice that I think might be helpful, but honestly, you're doing very well. It doesn't seem like you need help, but it just maybe a small tidbit that might help guide you in the right direction. But I'm always just overly flattered, and I can't believe every time you tell me that something that I've said to you has influenced you in a positive way.
Maybe that's something we just don't do as people enough, is be like, you just said this, and it means the fucking world to me in this moment. It's like not it's emasculating to say that. It's like something chicks might say to each other, and I don't want to be known as the dude that says chick things. Yeah. It's like, I think our upbringing of being manly really prevents us from being happy. That's probably why chicks live longer.
It's funny, man. I had a conversation with a branch manager one time, and we talk about the little things, right? But do you thank people for the little things?
Fuck no.
Right.
Well, I've gotten better at it.
So
I'm gonna write another thing down. You keep going. I can write this down too.
So I was with some other branch managers, and we I think today might be the first time I mentioned what bank I worked at. I might have to bleep that out. Whatever, it'll be all right.
I don't think I heard it.
Maybe.
Don't say it. Yeah.
So I don't care. I don't work for him anymore. So anyway, I said, so tellers, what they have to do is they have to balance their drawers, and so at least once a day. And so before they go home, usually is when they'll do it. The more experienced ones, especially, they'll just count all the money out. They'll input it in the computer, and the computer tracks all the money that goes into and out and leaves the drawer, and it has to match within $3. You
can still $2.99 every day?
No, that does add up, and so so
nickel and diamond.
But I asked the guys, do you thank tellers for balancing? And he goes, no. Why would it's part of their job? It's like counting money. And I was like, well, what happens when they don't balance? And he goes, he starts to run through it. Well, we have to initiate a search and everything, and because he thought I was messing with him, and so he thought it's like what happens. Like, no, let's talk about it. And so he starts listing everything. Well, we get it. Nobody can leave. We have to search everywhere the person's been, around the desk, everything. We have to go through the record of the transactions, all this stuff, try and isolate and find out. Like, we do a full audit, basically. Yeah. I was like, well, what happens if it's wrong? Well, it gets documented. I was like, well, who does the work for that? He's like, well, I do. I was like, oh, sounds like a lot of work to do. Don't you think you should appreciate them for being in balance from time to time?
Oh, man. So I have a Dale Carnegie reference for that, but I really want to hit it. I have to pee, and I don't want this to end because I have 3 things on here that I really want to talk about.
Man, you got to pee?
Is there a pee break option on this thing?
Yeah. I we'll cut it and I'll just bring it back. Right. Like it's really crude, but it's better that way. Okay, we're gonna break.
Let's break.
Okay.
I feel a lot better now.
We made it. We made it. Yeah.
Brian even did like a little backflip, front flip thing over there.
Oh yeah. On the trampoline out there.
Quite athletic for a 31-year-old man.
It wasn't a very good one, honestly, because I'm in jeans, but I still got it. Yeah. But yeah, what were we talking about? I forget.
I was talking about Michael Preciado.
Yeah.
And him meaning a lot to me. And then you repeated it and told me about the bank, about just not appreciating. Dale Carnegie is where I wanted to leave off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I'm just going to repeat. I just feel like I could talk about this book for the whole time we talk to each other.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
But yeah, one of the things that really stuck out to me in that book is like, would you ever let the 3 things that are important to people, and I might get these wrong, but it's like, what are they? Like, what are the 3 things that are important according to Dale Carnegie?
Dude, I read it in 2 years.
Feeling important.
Feeling important.
Like food and water, and then like safety, maybe. That sounds right. Those 3 things.
Yeah, it kind of aligns with Maslow, so.
Yes. And so he's like, would you ever let your family, like you might go a day without eating. You might even go a week without eating. But would you let your family do that? Would you let your kid do that? And you're like, of course not. So why would you let your kid go, or if someone you care about go a day or a week without feeling important by just giving them a compliment? You know? And like that's what your bank teller needed, or I guess the manager of the bank tellers needed to do. Like he was just not complimenting these people. Yeah. And I feel like I'm missing sections of that, but like that's like.
Yeah, there were a number of times like when I was when we were done with the week, in the control tower, and I was releasing everybody. Of course, I was staying. Well done. You nailed it. When I was releasing everybody, and man, actually, it's really entertaining to watch you figure this out.
Up yours.
It's a good thing that's not part of the ASVAB.
How does headset work?
But yeah, I'd say, hey, I did it theatrically. I did it on purpose. I wanted to. I want it to feel meaningful, but I'd say, hey, great job this week. You're released. And right as they were about to walk down, maybe one person that got a couple of steps down the stairs said, hey, y'all, wait, hold on. I want y'all to know how much I appreciate y'all for the training y'all did. Everybody was safe this week, got everything done. Y'all made it like y'all were on time for everything. You made it really easy on everybody, and I'm very proud to be able to work with y'all. Yeah.
What do you think about, like, so that's cool, but that goes to a group of 8 people, probably 8 to 10 people. But when you individually pick someone to compliment, like in that aspect, to that person, everyone's looking at them. The person they admire, like you're an easily admirable dude, is acknowledging them. Like it goes so much further to just pick one person and acknowledge and appreciate that person.
Yeah, I've definitely done things like that too. And I'll tell you, we were kind of talking about the role that oxytocin plays within relationships, and when you can celebrate somebody, everybody that's
podcast.
Yeah. When you can celebrate somebody, do you have a thing about the bottom part of a beer?
Oh yeah, dude. Poor people drink that. 95% rule, dude. It's all warm and backwash.
Okay, sure.
But before you finish about what we talked about before this podcast about oxytocin, me and Brian, before this podcast started, we already solved all air traffic and the Air Force and leadership problems before this podcast started. So all the good stuff we kind of like wasted on that. Now we're talking about whatever comes to mind.
Man, just catching up.
Yeah, it's catching up.
Yeah, so
oxytocin.
Oxytocin.
Potato, tomato.
Tomato. So oxytocin was, it's pumped into IVs for pregnant women too. So it's responsible for building and establishing and reinforcing relationships. So you get it when
just like 5 months pregnant.
No. Like when you're giving birth.
Oh.
So like oxytocin is one of the main chemicals involved in women producing milk. It also creates the bond between the child and the daughter. Oxytocin, I may have this one wrong. I believe it's correct, but it's actually involved in initiating the childbirth process too.
So oxytocin builds bonds.
Yes.
This room is filled with some oxytocin.
So much. So that's what it does. And God, what was the question? It was about an individual, like complimenting an individual. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super important because what you're doing too is everybody that's part of that team. It's the same thing as when someone on your team does really well, you feel proud for that person.
Yeah.
So it reinforces the bond everywhere for everybody. So it's really important. People don't understand how important it is to celebrate people, to tell them that you're proud of them, to tell them that they did a good job, even on something insignificant. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we don't do that enough, and especially in the military, and it's so frustrating because a lot of simple compliments too, I think people kind of like they brush off like, nah, whatever, it's just my job. But you got to get past that because you're actually doing something productive for them, and it's important that you should do that because it's something that they actually can't control. Their body's reacting to it, despite what their body language says. Like you're manipulating the chemicals in their body by doing something like that.
Yeah.
So it's more than what the body language is. You need to get past that. You still compliment that person.
Yep. Oh, and it changes their life. It could potentially. So there's this moment I had. I was a brand new 5 level. I think Tanner Newton, the guy I talked about earlier, he was my trainee at Offutt. And then one day I was up there, and I don't know who was in training. Adam Kari, maybe Michael Byer. I don't know who was in training, but I just was bored, went up there, and remember like Spencer Watson used to always ask me questions like through the PCG, and I would just try to answer them when I was a trainee. And so I was up there, and the dude was just sitting there. Everyone was distracted with something else. They were distracted up there, the other trainers. And I was just bored, and I was like, I'm going to ask this guy some questions. And so I just pulled out his PCG and just started asking him questions. And
so this is a training guide, basically. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
You're good.
And so I was just looking at like what he needed to learn and asking him these questions. And if he knew, I'd be good. And sometimes I'd ask him things, and he confidently would answer. And I'd be like, yeah, that's right. As we all do. He is very confident. And then if he didn't know, he's like, I'm not sure. Like, well, look it up, because I know, but you don't know. So look it up. That's what I would do. And I did it with him for like an hour and wasn't thinking much of it. I was just kind of bored. And I think part of it was doing it because I needed to learn this, like make sure I still knew this. And as I like was just about to quit, this civilian, Todd Madden, who was my trainer when I was going through training, was like, hey, TP. And I was like, yes, sir. He's like, he was on the desk, and he was like in charge of everyone in the moment. He's like, hey, man, thanks for doing that. Like, no, for real. Like, thank you for doing that with him. And as like simple, he probably won't remember that. But like, look, this was 10 years ago, and I still remember that moment.
How'd you feel?
Great. Like, and I was about to stop because I was just, I'm going to go play with my phone now. Like, that's what I was thinking. And he said that. And then I think we went another 2 hours. And then after those 2 hours, it was Adam Kari. He was like, hey, thank you for doing that. Like, I think I know a lot more now. And I haven't had that like since I was in front load, which was like 3-4 months ago for this kid.
Yeah.
And so like, not only did I remember more so from Todd Madden than from Adam, but like just for like this guy who's a retired master sergeant that I really admire, who can control traffic, was like, thank you for doing that. Like, just like
such a small thing.
Yep. And it stuck with me for this long. And I have never told Todd Madden that story, but like I need to.
You need to start a list of the people you're about to call after this podcast.
I'll just re-listen to like 20 people now. But like, for real, and then I go to Moody, and like that became my thing. Like, I need to make sure Daniel Sitar knows book knowledge. I need to make sure Russell.
Yeah, and you did this a lot. Yeah. And I thought that was such a cool thing. Like, you knew to do that.
And it's all because Todd Madden decided to take 4 seconds.
Shout out to Todd.
Shout
out to Todd.
Like all these people. Yeah. Shout out to Todd. You don't really think about little things like that until you have a conversation over a podcast with this great wooden art piece that your boy made.
Isn't that great? Yeah, no big deal.
Stained?
No, man, I burned that. That's all burned pallet wood.
Man.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brian if you need some art.
Yeah, no, don't. I'm way too busy.
Doing all these podcasts.
I did this table too. Same thing. Just burned it.
Can I buy this?
What's that? Well, the problem is the legs. I got 2 post legs instead of 3 post legs, but whatever.
You got to go 3 posts.
You got it. I should have known, man. You're right.
I haven't built a thing in my life. But let me give you advice.
So let me. What's the next one?
Yeah, don't forget what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Just to get back to PO. So the dude that invited me to Germany, I'll make it quick. We hang out at the soccer game. We had maybe 2 beers, and then as we're leaving, he's like, I want to get a tattoo. And I was like, get an astronaut tattoo. You know, I have one. Yeah, I was like, it shows adventure, it shows space, it shows knowledge, it shows intelligence. Like astronauts are the way to go. Everyone's getting them. He's like, okay. Yeah, that's what I want. And so we go to this random tattoo shop, and guess what nationality? We're in Germany. Guess what nationality this dude is?
American.
Nope, German. No, so he's not German. He's Korean. And me and P.O. meet in Korea. And so we're like in there, and there's a Korean tattoo artist, and we're like talking to this Korean guy. He speaks decent English about all these Korean places we've been to, and he's just like amazed that we know Korea, that we can say hello in Korean and thank you in Korean. And P.O.'s like, I jokingly, I forget whose idea it was. I think it was mine. I was like, you should get TP on this thing. And he's like, okay. And so this dude, Michael Preciado, has a tattoo on his forearm of an astronaut, a cool astronaut on his forearm, and it says TP right across the middle, like blatant. And like when he did that, and I was like, wait, you're really gonna do it? He's like, yeah, man, like you had a huge impact on me, like a huge impact on my life, and like you're like my mentor. And like for someone to say that, Brad Barobi, got to move on to him next. Like for someone to say that in that moment, I was like, dude, I just try to get by day to day, and like, where can I laugh and insult someone once in a while? Like, how can I trick the next girl into liking me? Like, you know, like, and for him to say that, I was like, man, I'm doing something right, and I don't know what it is. And so,
but you chase that feeling, whatever it is, you chase it.
I don't want to admit it, but yes, like I feel like it's.
Yeah, that's the thing. When people tell me stories like this, like I wish I knew this years, because I didn't realize it until probably a year ago. But like, you chase those feelings.
Yeah.
That feeling of feeling good because you did something small like that, and you see that they responded to that in a positive way, and they took it in.
2 years later.
You chase that.
Yep.
That's what you do now.
Yep. So when people say the term in the Air Force, take care of your airmen, most people probably goes over the head.
It's been worn out. Yeah, it's tired.
And when I hear that, I think of like, I want more people like as great. Michael Preciado, Robert Potter and Michael Preciado, one of those two were the best air traffic controllers in Osan Tower from May 2017 to May 2018. It was one of those two. They were on separate crews because they were that good. You want the best on each crew.
Yeah.
And I was a crew boss, so obviously I couldn't be on both.
Yeah, because I can't.
It was those two guys. And Michael, like for the best controller to say something like that to me meant so much. You know, And like, so when people say take care of your airmen, like, I guess that's what I chase. The next Michael Preciado to come like, hey, I'm going to get your freaking initials tattooed on my wrist because you mean that much, you know?
To be clear, I'm not saying like you should chase the idea of getting airmen to tattoo shit.
So to this day, 4 people have got astronaut tattoos because of me.
Is that a real thing?
But only one with TP on it. I talked Chris Stocking into it, Alicia Garrett, and Erica Sidari. All 4 of these people have astronaut tattoos because of my influence. Because that is something I'd go for. Because now they have to think of me when they see it. And I'll get more. But so Brad Barovi, it was the night of
shout out to Brad
Barovi, Super Bowl 50. I should know this. I don't. 51, 52, maybe 53. When the Patriots beat the Falcons at the comeback.
Yeah.
It was like halftime, and we were both drunk, and there's everyone there, and it was whatever 28-3, I think. I guess it was 21-3 before at halftime, and he was so drunk, and he's like, TP, I'm a Browns fan, like people fail all the time, and he was just rambling, and I remember like saying like, dude, the Patriots are gonna win this. I was just so confident. Patriots are gonna win this, dude. Like, yeah, this is right where Tom Brady wants them, you know. And I was so confident about it, like actually believing it. Like, I don't know how. And then the Patriots end up winning somehow. And I remember like feeling great about that. And then Brad is like, he's drunk too. And there's like all sorts of people still at my house having this party. And he's just like, TP, man, this guy is my mentor. I want to be just like him when I get older. And like, I'm like 5 years. I'm not that much older than this guy either. And him saying that, and I was like, whoa, like that word mentor means a lot. Like, who's your mentor, Brian? Who's your mentor right now? Can't pick your dad. Next person.
No. Man, I'll be honest with you. I'm out of the Air Force. I'm kind of searching for that next person who's a civilian. But I mean, if I had to pick somebody that I lean on, personally, I would say the closest people are like Herbert Hayes. Shout out to Herb, and also my buddy Sean Hines. Okay. He's maintenance superintendent in McGuire, I think. We were really close. Well, still are. We're just geographically
you should
separated.
Talk to Thomas?
What's that?
Chief Thomas?
No.
You should send that guy a message.
I know, man. That's a good. Hey, that's my one. That's you got two, I got one. Just kidding. But then after that, I would say my childhood best friend's stepfather, Jay Diorio. So shout out to Jay. Okay. He taught me a lot about just kind of being the right kind of man, having patience when things are frustrating.
That is tough to do.
Yeah. But like, so these people, like, and I'll say it helps that you outranked me and that you're older than me. Because if you were younger, I think it struggled to have like. That's a barrier too, though. It is. You told me this, leader. This is something you've said. I say a lot of things. I already told you that. And when I saw you at the schoolhouse in the hallway, like I say a lot of things you say, and that's one of them that I say often, and people love me for. Or they're like, "Whoa, that's wise," and it's your words that I say, and I'm curious where you got it. What? But before I say it, so I don't forget, it's like I'd like to meet your mentors and be like, "Hey, what do you think about Brian Belfort?" And just to like see if they even remember you. Like, not that they won't. But like, there's a chance they're like, oh, I don't know. Like if someone asked Michael Preciado, who's your mentor? I don't know if he'd still pick me, but like, I'm just curious what someone would say. Well, the thing is, admire. I don't want you to forget what you're saying. Okay. But I don't subscribe to the idea of a mentor. I do. And that's because, and not that there's anything wrong with it, just me personally, man, I've absorbed things from so many people. Mm-hmm. My best quality is that I'm coachable, and so if you tell me something that sounds right, I'm rolling with it. That's fair. So that leads right into the thing you told me in like 2015 that I love and I repeat, I don't know how many times, is that leadership doesn't just come like from the people that are older than you or that outrank you. Leadership very often comes from people that are behind you, that are younger than you, lower ranking than you. It comes from them. And then you went on to say leadership is just like science and history and math. And it's something that there's tools everywhere around, but for whatever reason, people just don't want to pick up a book and read about it or like go to a forum and learn about it. But it's everywhere. And if you just decide to learn about it, it's there. Like, and you can learn how to, and these were your words that I loved and like really stuck. It's like, you can learn to manipulate people if that's what you're into, or you can learn to really like motivate them to do what they want to do. Which is motivation is a form of manipulation. Sure. Yeah. It's just, like a good-hearted thing to do to positively do it. But and I'll be honest, there's people I haven't got along with and I've like done things to manipulate them to do what I need. Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I've used manipulation on an individual that we both know. I won't use his name on here. Yep. Okay. But I'll talk plenty about how I gained control of a situation I needed to by using manipulation in ways that he didn't understand. We can talk about that. But here's a good example. When I ran the 5.6 at Moody, I was the lowest ranking tech sergeant, right? The organization was about to get disbanded. And by the way, folks, the best way to do a private org is right when it's about to get disbanded, because everybody's pulling for you. That's how I selected my private orgs. But anyway, I know I can confidently say I did a good job with them because we focused on the right things. Anyway. Keep talking. I got a thing. Okay. Put on my thing. When we had our first meeting, right, there's psychology about how people sit around a table in a room. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I walked in and I set my cup at the obvious head of this oval table. So the top people sit at the end.
Before you're the president?
No. Like when I won.
Okay.
Which I should say this. Normally, the way people win in those organizations, the elections, they give a speech and then they bring their work center to vote for them. I brought nobody. Okay, no big deal. But I gave a speech that talked about how you were underpaid as an E5 and E6 for what you manage. There's no reason you should be paid the money that you're paid to manage the things that you're doing, the multi-million dollars, the many people, the lives that you're responsible for. Again, I'm trying to evoke emotion out of this. And I basically told them, if you're looking for a fundraising organization, don't vote for me. But if you're looking for an organization that's for you, that's by you, that produces things that can help advance your career, I might be your guy. Right? And that's what we did. We did very little fundraising, only what we actually needed to do the things we wanted to do. I won't get into that. But so when I sat down, I came in and put my drink at the obvious head of the table. And then I greeted everybody as they came in.
Was it the alcoholic drink?
No.
Lost them.
And then everyone came in and they sat down. And it was important for me because they organized themselves by their initial level of participation. And I would say, we'll say that. Mm-hmm. And their initial level of participation. But I kept the seats wide enough, and I put a seat right in the middle of the table. And the reason being is because typically when you sit at the head of the table, the person to your immediate left is the person that disagrees with you the most. The person that sits on the immediate right is the person that agrees with you the most.
Wait, that's like standard across?
That's the psychology behind it states that. And so what I wanted to know is who was who, mm-hmm. right? And because if you don't let people pick their own seats, they'll organize appropriately and they'll sit closer and whatnot. But I put only a certain number of seats out there because I knew how many people were going to be there, and I observed where they were going to sit. And I put a cup here to say that this might be where the head of the table was, but they really didn't know. And the seats were all equally spread out. And then I rolled a seat in the exact middle, basically disarming the head of the table, right? And of course, it throws them off. That's the way of me gaining control of the room, right? Because it's our first meeting.
Yeah.
So, but we had a great organization.
Where did you learn this strategy?
There's a book called Compelling People. And of course, there's a lot of introductory books you read because you're curious about something, and then you deep dive in online and maybe you go into studies and whatnot. And so that's basically what this book did. But a lot of the techniques from this book I used on this particular individual that we both know.
Okay.
But,
like something like that, that's like literal manipulation, But
it's for collaboration, because that's what I needed. I needed to disarm the idea of rank.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to do. Like in a volunteer, I love this from John Maxwell, and you'll probably remember this because I think I've tried to get you to do volunteer stuff. But if you want to find,
I do volunteer now.
The true nature, the true ability of leadership of an individual, you put them in charge of an all-volunteer group, where the only way they can get things done is by building consensus and collaboration, because nobody cares about your rank because they're there volunteering. They can leave at any point. If at any point you're not doing something that aligns with the principles that they have of why they're there giving their time, you're no longer leading them. So you have to be aligned with that always. That's the door shutting. Don't worry about that. But yeah, so I may have lost my train of thought, but the point is leadership, volunteer organization. So yeah, that's how you do that, because you shed the bonds of like organization of rank. If we walk into a room, we know where we stand because of our rank, our skill sets, by our badge, what branch we're in, mm-hmm. by the patch, how we identify ourselves with our name patch. Everything we need to know, it's rank and file. It's the benefit of the military. But in an all volunteer organization, it shouldn't work like that. So I tried to disarm those things.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and that's something I haven't looked into much, because usually every meeting I go to, it's with people I already know, and like that hierarchy is already established. But yeah, that's really cool that you went to a private org and did that. So I'm a part of this thing called Air Power Leadership Academy.
Okay.
You know what that is by chance? Okay. So it's this very similar to NCOA, the leadership school we talked about earlier, but it's like Everyone's in civilian clothes. Rank's not a huge thing, and there's cadres who are senior NCOs and people who want to attend the class that are NCOs. And it's this 10-week course. You meet once a week. And basically the cadres will have different topics, and we just discuss them. We facilitate discussions, and that's something really cool because just the way people sit and shit is you saying that makes a lot of sense. And then just
because you can see the personalities where they organized.
Yeah. So when you did that as the 5'6" president guy, was the most controversial person to the left of your cub?
The immediate left. Yeah. And so what you do by doing that is you can kind of reset it by placing the person that's in charge in a different position. And so what I've done by doing that, and of course, the degree to which they're defiant varies the farther away they get.
Yeah.
Right? So by putting my position here, right, I'm forcing this person to my immediate right who is on the side of not agreeing with me to be more agreeable. And that's typically what happens is that they become more agreeable.
Because they're so far away from the center.
Yeah.
Huh. That's good. So, yeah. You ever read Getting to Yes? I gave that book to somebody before I left Hurlburt Field. I have not read it. Like you had it and said, I don't need this.
No. I bought it for them, and I bought one for myself. I just haven't. That and Never Split the Difference. Those are two books I have on my bookshelf that I haven't read.
Okay, I haven't read that second one, but Getting to the Yes is awesome, man. You're going to agree with this, and I don't need to motivate you into this, but it was a discussion during the Chief Controller's course that I just graduated from, and I wanted people to agree that people like discipline, right? And not everyone's going to be like, yes, people love that. And so to get there, I was like, we can all agree that everyone likes organization and structure. Like people like having that in their lives.
Oh, this is great.
Yes, of course. Of course, everyone was like, yeah. And then I was like, because we were I forgot how it came up. We were talking about discipline.
This is a Dale Carnegie thing too, because he talks about if you can get somebody to agree with something and say yes to something, the likelihood that you're going to get what you want increases. You just have to get to a yes.
Yes, but getting to the yes obviously hits that on bigger angles. Getting to the yes just says get something that people are going to obviously agree to. Everyone likes organizational structure. Yeah, and so people also like being disciplined. I don't have kids. Neither of us have kids, but I remember being a kid and being told John, you can't do that. And of course in the moment I didn't like that, but I learned and I could correct myself. And then I knew from there forward, go this way. And then as a 3-level or as a trainee, as a new airman, when the people I admired, the Todd Maddens, if I would throw a stapler on the ground because I thought it was funny, and he's like, hey man, that's Air Force property. Don't do that. It actually was Steve Nastasi that told me that. I threw a stapler on the ground to be funny. And he was like, do not do that. And I was like, oh, you're right. That was really immature. He was like, people follow you. You're a staff select. People are going to also do that. Is that good for people to throw equipment around? I was like, well, I guess not. And so I don't want to admit I like discipline, but I definitely liked it. This guy I respected took time to tell me don't fucking do that. So I'm not going to do that. And so in this class, I was like, people like organizational structure, right? And everyone's like, yeah. And I was like, and people also like discipline. People like knowing where their boundaries are. And people were like, yeah. And it's, and no one fought me on it. They just said yes. And I was like, cool. Yeah. And I think that's something, I was telling you about this earlier, but I didn't talk much in that course. And that's how people learn more is when my quarterback coach told me this, is just I just wanted to always talk about every single play. When a receiver asked me and the coach or the huddle, well, what do I do on this play? I'd be like, oh yeah, you run a 10 and out, and the coach would just be like, yeah, you run a 10 and out, and then one day after I did something like that, he pulled me aside. Coach Edom was his name, and he was like, John, people learn so much more if they listen instead of talk. Anything you say, you already know. You already know that. You already understand that. You gain nothing from saying it. So if you just sit there and listen to it, you're going to learn so much more. If you just listen to other people, you learn so much more. And I remember him saying that, and I stopped interrupting people.
That's amazing that you could be that receptive.
17,
yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, but you agree with it, right? It's just such a simple concept. And I was like, huh.
Yeah, when I was when I was younger, I was always had to have be the person talking.
Yep.
And I've gotten better about it. I still am, because I'm just excited about people and ideas. And so when people talk about things, even things that are sort of silly, I can process it and think like, I could see some truth in that. You know what I mean? And it's fun to play with ideas. I don't know. It's a weird thing I have. But
no, I don't think it's weird. I think it's normal. It's just something people like to openly admit. But so that was my thing I learned from being a high school quarterback.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell me something more impressive. Tell the audience something better that you learned from your experience of.
You shouldn't destroy school property.
I know you're talking about that with a Gulf War Italian controller. I listened to your podcast. I loved it. Man, I kind of want. If you don't tell the story again, I want to tell it. That shit was. Man, I think that night you first came up as a front load tower trainee and like shared that with me. I was like, oh, like I can relate to wanting to do that, but not having the balls to do something like that as a kid. So yeah, I think you should share it, real quickly. And if not, I'll make it like a 20-second story. But you go ahead. It'll be better if you do it.
I'll keep it brief. So yeah, I mean. When I was in high school, I was at a buddy's house, and we had been drinking, and his mom was a prepper before prepping was cool, and had a bunch of salt. And so I was like, hey, let's go to high school and salt some things in the schoolyard. And that ended up being genitalia.
You want to know how you make bombs in the Air Force? You talk about imprinting dicks on high school property. As technical sergeant. I never did that, but I could relate to wanting to do that. But,
yeah.
We actually, maybe 2 hours ago, we drove by that. He told me that story 5-6 years ago, and I got to finally see it. Yeah. Obviously, it's not there anymore.
Yeah. But that was the location.
The story where I was like,
so
I'm gonna like this guy.
Yeah. Well, John, I was always I don't know if you want to move on from
No, I like this.
the entire manipulation conversation.
Nope.
No. Okay.
I don't know what. Wait.
So I was going to talk about some of the things I did with that individual we both know. Mm-hmm. So this person who was more interested in authority itself than. And being in a position of authority than the weight. Power. Yeah, exactly. Than the weight and responsibility that came with it. And so he leveraged it a lot. This person happened to be a tall, 6'5", 6'4" dude. He had the gift of being able to walk into a room and being a spectacle and taking control of the room without saying anything. Then when he started talking, it was a little different. But so it was interesting. I noticed he liked his space. And so what I would do, because he didn't like me, he was lower ranking, and I had come to the facility and just trying to manage stuff on my own crew, not even his crew, he didn't like. And so he would try to influence, he was crossing a boundary that he wasn't supposed to be crossing. And so I was polite about it again, quiet, speak softly, carry a big stick kind of thing.
Stay in your fucking lane.
But being obtuse with him, I didn't think would work. So I'd do things like I'd be real friendly with him and tell jokes, and then as I would laugh or if he looked away, I would slowly advance on him. So I'd close the gap a lot, and it was really uncomfortable for him. I could tell, but that told me a lot about him. And so one time we had to have kind of a pointed conversation, and so I brought him in. I put him in a chair that wouldn't raise up. I sat in a higher chair.
You're just on this 8-foot fucking chair thing.
But it's funny because I invited him in. He sat down, and he kept trying to mess with the chair. And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I had to have another chair. This is the only one that works. I didn't want to go to another floor and get it because we were in a control tower." And so I sat down, and he was in a corner, right? And then I was in an open area in front of the door, and I left the door open for a lot of reasons. Because there's room to get out, but I'm in a position higher above him. And so in order for him to get out, he has to kind of go through me. I wanted all these things at play.
Sure.
And I would do things too, like when I brought him in, I shook his hand, right? So the way I shook his hand was like this, okay? So that's a position of control. That's a position of being mutual. Now if I want to go and say I'm trying to strike a deal with somebody, I'm going to come in like this. Right?
Under,
because you're in control.
Ah. I did feel better that second time, even though you were telling me what's going on.
Yeah, so that's the point, is that, what you're trying to do is put, give them a disposition. And again, like it is manipulation, but with this person, he and I were so, like, we couldn't get across to each other at all. Like, we didn't like each other, but I happened to be, in this case, in a position of authority, and I had to correct him on something. So I felt like that was the way to get through to him. And I'm going to say, to my credit, he was probably the most receptive he's ever been. And because he was probably really uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was the point, Like, if I'm having to correct somebody and that person doesn't like me, respect me, whatever, then I'm going to do the things necessary to put them in a subordinated position so that they can get the message that needs to be delivered. Now, I didn't hold any ill will towards him. It's just like, unfortunately, that was the person he carried himself to be,
Yeah.
And that's how I had to respond to that.
I think, and you learn these things through reading books.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
Cool. Like,
for sure.
Just off the handshake, like, I felt it. Like, one of them I liked, one of them I didn't like.
Yeah.
And it's like that simple. And I could see.
Yeah,
those
and there's things like in this book, Compelling People, like when you talk and you want to have a softer message, hold your hands like kind of in a round position, not this.
What do you mean, as you sit there?
Yeah,
handshake.
yeah, like if you have to have a conversation with somebody, you shouldn't do this.
Why? What is that? What does the finger spread touching do?
Well, it has to do with the angles of it. It's very sharp angles, and so that's obtuse. It's abrasive. This is more comforting.
Yeah.
So it's all about roundness when you're trying to be softer. And the thing is, we know this. I mean, we put round things over hard, like pointed things. Like we understand it. And I think that's why that works, is because it plays on our psychology. If I want to be, if I want to be very direct with you, this is uncomfortable.
It is.
Yeah. And I'll squint my eyes and look very directly at you. But those are the things that help you gain control of a situation. You can do that in negotiation and all that stuff.
Yeah, it shows me you're not fucking around. Like you're.
Yeah, but that's also uncomfortable. It will also, if we're trying to negotiate, it makes you defensive. And I need you to be not defensive if we're going to strike a deal. Now, of course, somebody could do these things. Like Donald Trump is known for these things, and he probably, he does. There's plenty of stories of him abusing, these. But at the end of the day, and I'll speak about just negotiating, but I think this applies in many more ways. A good deal, whether it be the transaction of money or policy or whatever, if you're trying to get groups or organizations to agree with one another, a good deal is a state of mind. I can make a bad deal work. I can make a bad decision work. We do it in the military all the damn time. Yeah. You know what I mean? We can force people to do it. But a good deal is a state of mind. So if I do a deal with somebody over whatever, whether it be just something as small as like on, if I'm selling a car to somebody that I picked up, I want the person to feel empowered. Yeah. It's important to me. But at the end of the day, it's not about whether the deal was good, but that the deal was made, because the deal is a state of mind. I was happy for the money I got for what I gave up, or vice versa. And the other person was too, because quite frankly, we got through it, But you getting cold?
Yeah, no, my temperature just keeps changing.
God, man, do you have malaria?
I hope not. Maybe COVID.
Maybe good. Oh,
got my test. I haven't got a call yet. So.
So you have to do a test a few days before you leave then, right? God, these headsets are kicking your ass.
Why don't you have more fancy headsets? Yeah, I have to get one within 72 hours of my departure, and then I get another one when I land, and then another one 12 days later, and man, my nose just feels violated. Have you had one yet?
Yeah.
They are not.
I thought I had it. I did three tests after the first one came back negative, and still negative, but I mean I had all the markers for it. I even had the rash. There's like a COVID rash that you get, but now people think I've got Lyme disease, so who knows.
I don't want to move on before like responding to what you said, but yeah, I think like just being able to, I didn't know those specific things, but I definitely know in the one-on-one conversation for like our required feedbacks that are supposed to happen 3 times a year, like different little things you can do to have the upper hand. It's just another one of those things that you can do.
But sometimes, A feedback's a good one. That's not something I do in feedback, because in feedback, what I'm trying to do is get the person to.
But I bet you sit with your like this.
Things I do in feedback would be like, for example, I've done the opposite. I've given them a chair that's higher than mine.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wouldn't even have thought of that.
So because you're trying to get the opposite effect. I'm trying to get the other person to feel in control so that they can share with me and have the confidence of sharing with me. And of course, you use your language like that. Look, I'm here for you. I'm excited to hear, what you have to say about this year. I care about you and your career, things of that nature. So yeah, that's also manipulation. But what I'm trying to do at the end of the day is I can't help you unless you're able to talk with me.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the whole point of it.
100%. Yeah, the feedback is so awkward for both parties, really. It really is. Like, it's this thing that they're probably like, well, he's only doing this because he has to, and you have to disarm that. You have to.
That's exactly what you're trying to do. And that's the whole first step in build rapport. And we try to codify everything, but like my feedbacks have never taken less than 45 minutes, and I felt guilty at 45 minutes.
For too long?
Too short.
Yeah.
Like a good feedback is like 1 to 2 hours. Like it takes 30 minutes to go through the Air Force benefits fact sheet, that you're supposed to give. I won't put you in an awkward position. But
every time.
My man.
Read it.
But that's my point is that like, so you have to have this long conversation, and time's on your side too, because you've probably disarmed in this conversation quite a bit because we spent time talking, and that time creates trust because you realize I'm not here to expose you in a bad way. So you trust me.
Yeah.
Just by having a time to talk with me, we've established rapport, which is trust. And trust is the conduit by which we can actually share how we really feel. And I'll do things like actively engage and say, well, tell me more about that. I'm eager to learn, All these things are small, nuanced ways for me to get you to tell more about your story. Not that I'm trying to extract it, it's kind of what I'm doing, but I need to know more about your perspective in order for me to properly give you feedback and help you help yourself, I guess, but also be able to help you directly.
Yeah. Just I feel like you're saying all the things and giving me a little bit to respond to. It's like me talking to President Donald Trump about being the president. Like, oh fuck, I got nothing. I got nothing here. No, but that makes perfect sense. I know you supervise a lot of people, and I have too. And the feedback thing was always awkward until I realized, like, actually. This Chris, you knew Dyer, Chris Dyer.
Yeah.
When I started. I don't know if he's a senior. I think he's a master. He should be a senior. But like he was I've been in the Air Force for like 7 years. That dude was my supervisor at the time, and he marked me down a bunch. Not a bunch, somewhere between the 3 and the 4 marking.
Or did he not mark you as high as you wanted to be?
Correct. Which marking all the way to the right was normal and expected, and he didn't do that. But he at least took the time to be like, look, I know you don't like this, and I don't enjoy doing this. And he didn't want to do that to me. He had to, and he did it. And it was like, look, John, like, I know you're really good. I know you can be better. And I think what really made me feel good is he was like, one day I think you're going to be my boss, as this conversation was happening where I'm getting marked down and like, I might not make the next rank.
Yeah.
And it sucked, and I was really mad at the time. But because he did that, I made sure I did these things to where that wouldn't happen again.
Exactly.
And so the Air Force, I don't know if they're going to condone this. And I said that statement, and can you say it again? I forgot it.
What is it?
About my views are mine and not the Air Force's. But you said it way better than me.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get through it. Your views are yours and not that of the United States Air Force.
Perfect.
Okay.
And so I'll say this, and since he did that to me, marked me down, which I agree
didn't
with.
Mark you as high as you wanted to be marked. Agreed.
He didn't mark me as far right as I wanted to be, which in the moment I didn't like, but was very fair for what he did because I didn't do anything. Like if you look, but anyway, and now every time I have an initial feedback with my supervisor, I always say this, and I think everyone should. And it's just like, what do I have to do for you as my supervisor to mark me all the way to the right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they're like, well, I want to do that for you, so we'll get it done. And you know what that means. And then I've had 2 that are like, that's not normal, and we'll have to see when we get there. They'll say something like that. And so then in that feedback, it's like, well, what do you expect from your supervisor? And so that's after that conversation. And we get to that section, I'm like, The only thing I'll write in that block is, if I'm not going to have all my boxes to the right, I want you to tell me immediately and give me an improvement plan to do that. And so it's
I like that.
Yeah, it's on them. It's kind of uncomfortable. And every time I've done it, I've kind of been like, in that little moment, I'm like, have some kind of power. Like, you know, like they know this is what I want, because not that making rank is that, like, now I'm actually content. If I retire as an E7, not what I want, but I'm okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen the influence I have.
You won't.
Maybe.
You're going to be an E5 again.
I hope not. I'm content with an E7. Hopefully, you know, I don't want to like cut any ties here. And there's a maybe.
No, you won't, man. You won't. There's not a chance.
There's a chance for everything. But I will avoid that. But it's just like, now they know, like, it's important to me, and I, like, in that moment, I'm telling them, like, please, like, help me in this one thing where it's your choice and your choice alone. Like,
you're also telling them that I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
If you know there's a way that I can do better, I want to know about it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I tell people in the feedbacks when it comes to, like, me, and I make this clear very early on, the feedback's about you to the degree that it is about you. I'm going to tell you expectations that I have, and I want you to make me a liar. Mm-hmm. I want you to do the things I'm telling you to do that'll get you all the way to this point where you are. And then if you do those things, I'm agreeing to mark you in a certain way. So do those things, and if I don't do it, make me a liar.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. So now that you're out, and your opinion on this doesn't matter in the long run of the Air Force.
Yeah.
Is if you had a person, let's say you would have been a master sergeant when you got out. If you had a tech sergeant who's above average, really cares, does their volunteer things, 5-6 treasurer, would you? I don't know how to word this correctly, but like, would you say you want to mark someone all the way to the right or not?
Do I want to?
Yes. And
I want to mark somebody appropriately as they perform, given that I've done everything I can to provide the right oversight and feedback of their year.
So if you had 4 people, 4 E6s, mm-hmm. where would you say all of them are all the way to the right, or just most of them, or none of them?
This is a good question, and the reason it's a good question, because I think it
and I have no opinion on it.
Yeah. The reason it's a good question is because it transcends 2 models of performance feedback and expectation. See, in the old model, you literally had a feedback form that you wrote in specifically what the expectations were for the individual. There was nothing standard. Now, it gives you the expectations. So what the Air Force has done is they've moved to a model where the supervisors no longer provide the individual standards to the individual. And some people are still holding on to that. And I got into a conversation today about it, or this week, where I was like, the Air Force doesn't care about your individual standards anymore, because they kept saying, well, it depends on how they rate, how that supervisor rates. No, the Air Force took care of that with this new form. It tells you how you rate them, what the word picture looks like, how many people. Few airmen are going to be this far right. Yeah. Very few airmen.
You didn't win 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year. You can't be there.
Well,
you know, like people.
Well, the vagueness is that kind of criteria, and I did quite a bit, and still got kind of shafted and moody for many years. But in any case, I guess the answer is that they could all be to the right.
You know what's like, and I agree. And what sucks is you had to think, and it's such a difficult thing, because.
Well, the reason it's difficult is because I don't know who these people are. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But it's just like, as a fact, like if you don't do that, they probably won't get a stratification. You know, they might not get the DSD job they want. Like, it's just, and it sucks because I don't always mark people all the way to the right. You know, it's just so uncomfortable.
Well, think about this, man. So the entire force distribution model is based off of the Pareto distribution. And so we can back up and go to the 1960s where this was first conceived, right? So X amount of people are going to receive the highest ranking, X amount of people are going to receive the second highest ranking, and then everybody else is going to be in this middle pack. That's the way the Air Force does it. But the actual force distribution model has the bottom group gets fired. They're attrited every year.
Yeah, Amazon does that shit.
That's the actual way it's supposed to work. Well, the reason that's important is because you have to have a hell that you run away from. That's what advances the organization. See, GE and Jack Welch made this famous. So Jack Welch had the bottom 10% attrited every year. Gone. This is good.
He did that? If you were bottom 10%.
Yes. They met in Boca Raton every year, and they went through people in the company, and then they stratted them. And they gave bonuses and training opportunities. But what Jack Welch also had was those people in that middle group had to have a deliberate plan I think he had 5 groups. So you had the bottom 10 that would be attrited, and the next 10 or 20% that were performing below standards, they were required to have a plan to get them back up to the middle group.
Right.
But the point is that you had a place that you were running away from, because that bottom 10%, right?
I don't want to get fired.
Well, that could be you next year.
It could be.
If you were the bottom part of this, of the lower end of the everybody group, that's your ass next year.
Yeah.
So you had something to run away from. And so in order to run away from bad performances, you do good performance. That moves the organization forward in a productive manner, right? It's a terrible long-term strategy. There's no shortage of research about it. There's plenty out there. I've actually done that research.
Really?
Yes.
I would just hearing that sounds like a great strategy for a company if I could start one.
Well,
and I know Jeff Bezos does that with Amazon.
Yeah, but there's a mathematical problem with it. Is that by attriting people, you are slowly dwindling your potential employee pool every year.
But you're just rehiring.
And then 10% but still 10% are no longer, well, no, you're not rehiring those same people. Those people are fired. They're gone. Right. That's how the corporate world works. Like if you were somebody who couldn't perform and they couldn't get production out of you, they're not rehiring you. That's bad business.
They're rehiring 10% more people.
Well, they're hiring more people, right? But eventually, here's another problem that happens. Is that eventually the HR hiring people are part of the bottom 10%. Mm-hmm. They don't want to lose their jobs. So there's no incentive to hire somebody better. They hire worse people. Because that keeps them out. They hire people worse than they are. That keeps them out of that bottom 10%. The book is You Don't Know Jack by Jack Welch. And you can read about it. He talks about it.
You just got to fire the HR people every 3 years.
But that's the problem. It's a terrible long-term strategy. The greatest long-term strategy that exists in corporate America is the 360-degree feedback model, which is what the EPR should be. It's very difficult to do because well, I'll get into that in a second, but the point is that the Air Force is at a point, I believe, where the force distribution model has run its course. It is the absolute 100% perfect fit model to solve an inflation problem. There's no better evaluation system than force distribution. It doesn't exist. There's research on it. But it's a short-term strategy. It solves inflation.
Here's my pitch.
Okay.
For the original plan that Jeff Bezos does that I would like.
Okay.
You just tell the HR people you can't get fired. And if you hire people and if they don't get cut within 3 years, you get a bonus. So now these people are going to be motivated to find people to perform better. I don't know. He's got to take another angle. I think when we played sports, like if someone's better than you, you're out. Like there's no performance development plan to find someone who can throw a ball further than you. But you're out.
In sports, be better. But in sports, as much as we know it, our livelihoods didn't depend on us playing peewee and high school football.
Sure.
Like there's certainly more at stake. And that's what you have to take into account. But let's say Zappos,
shoe company.
Zappos will pay you, I think, $3,000 if you quit during the orientation. No harm, no foul, just quit. Now, the value statement there is that our company is so good and you're going to love it so much that if you're truly committed, you're going to have a great time and you'll be willing to forego $3,000 cash, non-taxed, for you. Very few people take that. I think it's in the single percentile. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I could imagine it's $3,000. Okay, I'll find another job.
Like when I read that, I thought like, I'm not going to work at a fucking shoe company. Like I'm going to fly to California and go to the Zappos orientation. Shit. That ticket only costs like $600 round trip. That's good business. But no, my point is, I mean, I'd like to see a model. I know they're coming out with the like airman leadership qualities, thing, which I think is a step in the right direction. And I'm saying that as somebody who hasn't seen it, so I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I could read it and say, well, this is absolutely terrible. But I do think it's probably a step in the right direction. I think they're missing the mark, regardless, because they're not implementing something. There's no evaluation on how effective you are. We create these bullet statements that are like, you literally have to have a key to interpret. There's a legend. Like on the back of the EPR, there's an acronym list. There's literally a legend so you can know how to interpret the bullet. Might as well be a map. So I think that what needs to happen is you need to find, during the promotion cycle, come up with questions, 3 to 5 questions on whatever competencies that you think are necessary to promote Air Force wide. And then I think the commander at that unit needs to prioritize them for that year, and they could change that year for which ones carry the most weight, highlight them. And nobody knows about it except for the commander. Not the first shirt, not the chief, none of that. I'm going to give you a rationale. So in this system, this is what happens. During promotion, the EPR gets written. You could even keep the same form. I don't care. You could keep the same system. I don't care, right? But what's missing is the actual grassroots efficacy of the individual. So imagine this. It's time for all tech sergeants, right, to be promoted or to have their evaluations done. And for those promotion eligible, people, their subordinates, their superiors, they all get sent a feedback link, right? They go on a computer, and there's competencies that exist, and they rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And it's 3 to 5 questions, and then every competency is added up. Like maybe it's scale 1 to 10. On the first one you get 9, the next one you get 3, the next one you get 5, right? So total 17. And maybe that one is not a 100% value. It's not the number 1. Maybe it's the number 3, and that's like a 20% value. So it only counts 20% of that competency added onto a score. You get a raw score at the bottom. That goes on top of the package for the board to see, so they can see not only that you're effective to people below you, but you're effective to people above you, because the people below you want you to treat them nice. The people above you want you to be productive. Yeah. So you measure the full range of your efficacy as an individual. And then the commander gets to decide which competencies are needed, because the commander understands the strategic target of the organization.
Yeah. So I think no system's ever going to be perfect. I mean, no. Even if we implemented that, there would be a fault to an extent. Like eventually someone as likable as me could tell my subordinates, hey guys, I really want to get promoted, and I hope you take that into account when you go into that session.
That'll come out though. Like because
someone would type that?
No. Because what'll happen is that, what do you think leadership's going to see? You're scaled all the way to the right for people below you. So you're just a nice guy, but you're nowhere near that productively, because you have to be productive as well. Now the problem would come into is we're thinking that if somebody was to their leadership productive, but they masked the tyranny that they put on people below them, right? And they say, y'all, I write y'all's EPRs. Y'all better mark me all the way right. It's going to be anonymous, though. It's going to be completely anonymous. So they'll never know who it was, right? And again, what they'll know from that feedback, if the airmen are honest, they'll be marked all the way left. That's a talking point.
That's fair. Yeah. Like, no system is perfect. What we have now, I think it works. But I like your idea. It would be really cool to try something like that. Selfishly, I think I would do really well under that
I think you would.
Strategy.
I think you would.
And I think a lot of people have been picked over me, or there's so many people way better than me. But I've seen, we all have this complaint, this person, and if they only knew what their subordinates
exactly thought. It addresses that. The only other change I'd make is taking names off of it and making it a randomly assigned DOD number.
That'd be good too.
And I think that meets diversity and inclusion requirements. There's a great study, I think, out of Duke where they study names and names on
Duke University or
resumes. Yeah. Duke University, and it's pretty fascinating how much like the type of names affects people's perceptions. And the Air Force is a cross section of the American population. The idea that they're not susceptible to biases is just mindless. So I think that's a simple solution.
It'd be cool to make it to the top, and we can make all the changes we want.
Well, when you make it to the top, if you want to hire me as some sort of...
well, you can't play favorites, and there's a lot of criterias. And
that's true. Works. That's true.
However, new opinion, as we drove here, we passed the Air Force recruiter. We get you back in.
Probably not. You know what's funny, man? I did ask... I asked our functional at Hurlburt at the time. He's not there anymore. I won't say his name because I think he's on to a higher level job, but... I'll tell you afterwards. He after I had canceled my assignment, I asked him. I said, "Hey man, is there any way I'll take the assignment again?"
Oh, you thought about it?
Yeah, I did, and I was like, "I'll do it."
That makes me feel good to hear.
I'll do it. I'll make it work. He's like, "Sorry, man, can't do it." So, which again, I get. I don't have any ill will for that. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to do this, if I was still in.
Yeah, if you were active duty, I'd be way more hesitant to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that does make sense, because people can't... We had this guy, really unfortunate. I think I can talk. Yeah, I mean, it's...
If you find out you can't, I'll cut it out.
Okay, when I can. So I won't say name or location, but the dude came from not a good location. Mm-hmm. Went to Kunsan, do a short tour, try to get a follow, and it didn't happen. And now he just found out where he's going next, and it's that same bad location. The kid's 23 years old, I think. I don't know, he's in his young 20s, and that just sucks, man. The dude joined the Air Force to see the world, to do things, and and there's nothing we can do for that kid. He has to go from his base to Korea, and then back to the base he was trying to leave after spending however many years he spent there. You just feel bad, man, how do you tell? There's nothing you can do.
So here's the silver lining, I'd say, because there's somebody that in one of the classes that I have right now who found out that he was going to Moody, and I tried to be positive about it, but I think it came out I think he said something so it's not that good then. And I was like, look, man, I just had a different experience. But what I will say, and this is me talking to you as well, unfortunately, one of the people that was part of the problem passed, and he was actually a genuinely great dude, 100%. But when in concert with the other individual who was supposed to be fired, but he quit on his own accord. Good for him. I don't care as long as he's not there. But when those two were together, they were both just awful. But the main one who is still alive that quit, he's gone. Okay. That does major things for that organization. Things that will make that organization way different because his presence is gone. Specifically, the other guy, he was somebody that would give you the shirt off his back. I firmly believe that. And whenever the other person wasn't around, the guy that passed, whenever he was by himself, not around his buddy, man, he was so nice. Yeah, very, very sweet man, and so it was heartbreaking to see him pass. Honestly,
yeah, that sucks to hear, and I don't know. I'm not sure of either of those people you're talking about, but I can take guesses. Yeah. But man, I was only at Moody for 2 years. But I didn't like it. I'd like to almost meet this trainee. Dude, Moody's not a bad place. There's a college there. It's a city of 40,000 people, I think. It ain't terrible, especially if
it's totally the organization. I mean, there's so many things to enjoy about that base. Yeah. They've got some great history of the Flying Tigers, led by Claire Chenault, who was an LSU graduate. That's his fault, not mine.
Yeah. President George Bush Jr. was there. He liked it.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, he's just T. Michael Mosley had dedicated one of the buildings there, and he was responsible for shipping nukes across the country. But
who is the mayor of that town? I forget his name. He had his own parking spot.
No, it was a guy who was influential in Washington that kept that base open.
What's the name?
I forget.
Yeah, me too. But I remember like seeing him at like ALS graduation.
Yeah. He was always invited. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just like so.
Him and his wife, who was a doctor. Yeah.
It was just like
it was so bizarre.
You want to talk about like someone who just has positional and referent power. Like it's that guy.
Yes, he had buildings named after, streets named after him. And
I don't know what the ALS was named after.
Like
but
he testified on Capitol Hill, I think, to avoid the base closure.
Yeah.
That's a crazy name. But yeah, so you're going back to Korea.
I am.
So are you taking a new position there?
I don't think so. I was the guy in charge of the training program, and I mean I only have I think 4 months left there, so it wouldn't really make sense to move me. I would love to like learn some of this cheap controller stuff, which is the course I went to out here, why I'm here right now. But now I'm gonna be the training guy still, and I've done that job for almost 3 years now, and anyone who does air traffic military-wise knows it's not like job most people want to do.
Yeah, I had to do it at Herbert. Yeah.
Okay, TSN, I guess you did both. Yeah, so you did it bigger than I did. There's just very like, no matter what you do, no one appreciates you. Just like me being a people person, wanting to get people like Brad Barovi and Michael Preciado to be like, I love you, I want to be like you.
Not the job.
Yeah, now I'm just like looking at papers and telling them, hey, you didn't do this. It sucks, and I know it's important. I do understand that. I helped the flight commander out a lot with like, those having that figured out. But yeah, it's just not.
It's a thankless job. Flight commander.
Yeah, you know what?
The freaking AOF.
Yes.
If anybody's wondering, the Airfield Operations Flight Commander is the thankless job in the Air Force. I got talked to at Hurlburt Field. It's a casual talking to, but I got called in, and he's like, "Are you telling?" Because we'd get the Air Force Academy people to come to the tower. Like, are you telling them not to be a flight commander?
You were doing that?
Yeah. I'd say when they came up, I'd be like, "Why are you this is how it'd be. I'd be like, "Why are y'all here?" And they're like, "Oh, we just wanted to come up and see." And I was like, "Are y'all considering being a flight commander?
Yeah.
Like being a 13 Mike?" They're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Why? Why would you waste an academy education on a job as thankless as this? You don't know enough about anything that you command. You know what I mean? You just get like kind of a brush over, right? They don't teach you how to manage like people really, You have to be an advocate for your flight, but you work for a pilot. You get shit on every time at the AOB, the Airfield Operations Board. Like, it's a thankless job. You don't know anything about what you do, what you command, but you have to answer for all of it, regurgitating something that sounds intelligent from people that know aviation, Like, you advocate for nobody, really.
I hear you, and if they told me I had to be a 13 Mike, I would kind of be excited to do it, I think.
Yeah.
I think. But I do hear your points. But I think it's just some people are like I've called out some AOFs. I've had Captain Cody Campbell, Major Petchek, Richard Petchek. Like, there's people that can actually do that job, do a good job, and I know like no one appreciates them. They have to get.
Yeah, but that's my point. You can be good at that job, and nobody still nobody appreciates you.
Just your surroundings. Like, I think airfield management's usually like a lot closer to that person than you realize because they're usually in the same building.
Yeah, but nobody cares about them.
We all care. We're all profession of arms, young man.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. But but few people are ever complaining about base ops other than like a runway project that they have no control over, But when it comes to ATC, every single time pilots are complaining.
I don't know if you're trying to get me in trouble here. But because we're most visible. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the 13 Mike position is, you're right, it's not much different than that's it. No one's going to like you no matter what. But
it should be a prior enlisted job. I think so. I don't see the money's worth in putting a brand new officer in that. I just don't see it. To me.
What do you think about the argument? It's been happening for 40 years now. Why change it? It's been working.
Honestly, like a lot of how many 13 mics do you know that are prior enlisted? I know quite a few.
Corinne Van,
Bills.
Yep, Bills. I don't know. He's from Einhold. I think he went to be a pilot.
I don't know him.
Okay, yeah, I guess I don't know very many.
Not many, right? And especially those that are actually good at the job. How many of those are prior enlisted?
I mean, I only know Bill's and Van, but I bet Van's spectacular. She's a good controller.
Yeah, Bill's is pretty good, you know. So I think that there's one, the promotion potential is not there. Like, and that's the other thing I would tell.
You're not going to ever.
I would tell the academy graduates. I was like, you're going to peak. You're going to fight your whole career to peak out at major, you know, despite doing everything that you can do, and hope that it.
We're at 2 hours already.
Yeah,
I feel like I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, man. Like this is a time capsule, bro. Man. Yeah. But yeah, you just peak out at like a training squadron commander, you know? Oh, let me tell you something amazing. Aside from the student that won 150.
Come on, 13 mic is an important job. Go on. It's important.
You know, but aside from the student that won like $150,000 because he did the whole GameStop thing, the other brilliant thing that I've heard trainees do on the base is they'll order an Uber, but not get in the Uber, but ask the Uber driver to pick up alcohol, bring it to the dorms.
Oh, but they're 21.
That's the thing. so it's actually kind of brilliant.
Make that a 13 mic.
But like, bring him to the office. That was the test.
Innovation, technology. What are your stocks in? That and people got busted for that. Like, how do you know about it? What is it called? What is that thing called at the end of basic where you get to talk about whatever you want? Not advocacy. What is it?
I know the word.
Big word.
It's the same thing. Amnesty. Yeah. So, it's just these are things that you learn that trainees do. You know.
Yeah, that's smart.
In a yeah. When I heard it, and I don't. Maybe it's just a thing. I don't know if you feel this way.
Otherwise, I'm giving you 1 star.
The thing is, when people tell me they do something stupid, I get like weird. You know, have you ever seen the movie Anger Management with Adam Sandler? Yep. You know that Jack Nicholson, you know that? When I hear somebody do something super stupid, that's me. Like, tell me more. Like, the level of stupidity that people can reach for like little reward is so amazing to me. And that was one of when someone was telling me that, I was like, really? Go on.
You're out. Tell me something really stupid you did for such a little reward.
Well, the salting was a big one.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a big reward.
That was a legendary status on that.
We're talking about it 15 years later.
Man, I'm not sure. It might just be a blur for me, but well, I'll tell you about a buddy who he got really hammered in Spain, and he was a flying crew chief, and he made his way on base over to the flight line, got on a C5, powered up his C5, and started running through checklists.
Why would he do that?
He had to pre-flight his jet. He's in civilian clothes on the flight line. The jet's running. He gets he gets onto the flight line first of all, and then some master sergeant comes up. It's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like drunk, stumbling, like. And to his credit, like, he didn't get any switches wrong. And so they said shut the plane down, and they took him back to his hotel room. That would have been a career ender, you know. So.
I'm sure that guy's a successful young man.
Great dude, great dude, very, very great dude. But yeah, I'm not sure, man. I know there's a lot of stories I've got. I don't know that any one is more stupid than the other. Honestly, yeah. Here's one. We were flying over the Atlantic, and we were on a C5, and we got a whistling leak in the visor of the plane. You know, C5, the whole nose lifts up, right? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
So the seals on that are pretty sophisticated. And so on the right side, the upper part of the hinge, the seal was gone, right? So my idea was what I'm going to do, because we're at altitude, like 30, 40,000 feet, I forget exactly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a blanket, I'm going to soak it in water, and I'm going to put it just right there at that leak. And what's going to happen is the negative 30 degrees or so is going to freeze that in place, and it's going to seal the aircraft.
Like you thought of that?
Yes. The ice is going to expand. It's going to seal the hole. That's how I'm fixing this.
And there's some captain that's flying this jet, this giant.
I didn't tell him. So the problem is that there's engines outside there. Now, if you don't know what a little rag can do to an engine, I can tell you that a blanket will shred it, okay? Shred the engine. It'll be done, okay? And the bad thing is that, like, these old TF-39 engines didn't fall under the same FAA requirements that exist today about engines. If a blade blows in an engine, the nacelle, the casing, has to contain all of it. Well, on a C5, there's lines painted on the outside that say, if the engine fan separates, it's coming through the plane right here. Anyway, so I go do this. I get up on a ladder. We're in flight, and I put it out there, and it shoots out the plane, and I'm holding on to it because I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, if this gets out of the plane, and the plane's flying, because like a plane flying level in flight to maintain a flight is not flying flat, it's flying like this. And so I'm like, oh shit, if it gets out, it might go into the engine here because it'll fall and drop. And so I had this sinking moment, like, I might cause an engine shutdown. And
over the Atlantic Ocean, over the Titanic.
And so I was like, well, I can't hold on to this forever. And then I thought, like, well, when should I let go? And I thought, like, well, if it goes in the engine, it goes in the like I'm working through the probability here in my head, and finally I was like, it's in God's hands. and so I let go of this, and it goes swoop out the plane, right? I run up the ladder and I look at all the engine displays because it'll be apparent if it got sucked into the engine, and everyth's fine. So I narrowly avoided that. So I did it again, and and it worked.
You know,
I froze I got the thing in the in the blanket, and I froze it, and it worked, and it sealed it.
Are you gonna bleep this out, or I have to go tell Biloxi IG?
No, man. So yeah, that worked. That worked. I think the issue was I put too much out there at first. And so I think what it did was it created a vacuum on the piece that was sticking outside. So I was very careful and slow and deliberate this time, so that it hopefully froze kind of smooth out there.
You know something I started doing shortly after NCOA, after I met this guy, John Hopper. He was in my little flight. He was a PJ. He was a distinguished graduate. Fucking phenomenal.
Stud, huh?
Yeah, I still talk to this guy. But one time, me and him in my camper van, me, him, Corey Keaton, and a couple other guys, we got in my van and another car because we had so many people that wanted to go, and we drove down to Switzerland over a 2-day weekend, the regular weekend, and we went camping in Switzerland. You know, it was a lot of fun. We saw mountains, waterfalls. You know what guys do, just drinking, having the time of our lives. We were all under 30 at the time, all of us, and I walked into my camper at maybe 11 o'clock at night. You know, that's where I was sleeping. It was my van, and it probably slept 3 people comfortably. And I see John Hopper in there just sitting in my driver's seat. He has a little headlamp on his forehead, and he's just writing in a book. And I look at him, and he doesn't look at me. I open the door. I'm looking at him. He doesn't break concentration, just keeps writing. He has I think his phone on with some music. I think I was grabbing a koozie. And so I grab my koozie, and I look at him again. He doesn't look at me, and I close the door. And I go back to everyone else. And then an hour later, he comes and sits next to us. And I was like, hey, man, can I just ask? I don't want to be nosy, but what were you doing in there? He's like, oh, I journal. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, yeah, I've been doing it for years. I write in a journal. Every day if I can, I just write about my thoughts of the day, things I should have done. Or if I skip the gym, I write about it. Right now we're in Switzerland, so I'm writing the address and the names of all the people I'm with, because it would just be really cool to reflect on that. I just like doing that. And he's been doing it for years. And I was like, I don't want to intervene too much or be nosy, but can I just look at your journal? Is that weird for me to ask? That sounds cool and I want to see it. He's like, yeah. And he just goes back to the van and hands it to me, all his thoughts. And I'm flipping through it, reading, skimming through it. But it's this dude's real thoughts. And he's talking about like being in a formation and just like thinking in his head like what's ever going through his head. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And it's like, you know, I'm like flipping and it's like 2 years back and it's just like his thoughts, and it's a thick book. And I was like, man, that's really cool. Like I'm reading what John Hopper was thinking in 2016. This is 2018 at the time. And it was really cool. And I was like, so like, how do you find the motivation to do that every day? He's like, oh, it's just a thing I tell myself to do. And I know like when I get older, my kid, he had a kid, David is the kid's name. And he's like, I know David's going to really want to like probably read this, you know, and like even me, like it would be cool to just read this. And he's like, and the weirdest thing is I just like the way pen feels on paper. He said,
I do too.
Yes. And I had never thought about it. And when he said that, I was like, oh fuck. Like actually I like that too, but I don't do that. And then I was like, man, like I wish I did that. And he's like, you should. And I was like, yeah, I should. Maybe I'll start. And I kind of rubbed it off. And like the week before we graduated, it's like, hey, John, can I get your address? Like, I just want to keep in touch with you. This dude didn't have Facebook or Instagram. And I was on it, but not much at that time. I don't have it anymore, either of those. Maybe because of him. But like, I was like, sure. And I was like, how do I even keep up with you after this? Because he didn't have anything. He's like, oh, email. And like, that's how, the only way me and John Hopper talk is through like a monthly email. You know, it's shit's crazy, right? Like who emails? And so I gave him my address, didn't think much of it. And like a week after graduation, I get a box in the mail and it's a package from John Hopper from England. He's in England, I'm in Germany. And I open it and it's a journal, a moleskin journal. And it's a note like, John, you gave interest in Switzerland about wanting to journal. This is the best journal out there. Feels great when you write on it. And so I just wanted to get it for you. You know, it was like that simple. Like, you know, he had acknowledged like how much fun we had. It was a little longer than that, but it was a simple letter. And like, since I got that day, I wrote in it, hey, today John Hopper sent me this journal. Me and him met at NCOA, the night in Switzerland. And like since that day, and I had journaled very minimal prior to that. I had like lost them all, so I don't have any memory of it. But like ever since that day, like I have like 2 journals now and they're all like filled with information. I have it here in Biloxi with me right now that I've written in, you know, meeting my classmates here. I'm obviously going to talk about this, but the shit is fucking cool to like write in there and then read back like from a year, 2 years ago, because I've been doing it for almost 3 years now. This shit's cool to journal. It's just like an old school thing. I don't know what you think about it. What do you think?
I think it's a very primal thing to do, and I think that one of the key ways that humans think is by reflecting. Yeah. And the great thing about writing is that you can put your thoughts on paper and instantly become another person thinking about what you're reading. So you become this person who can split their mind into different people and kind of have a conversation with yourself. And I think that that's true enlightenment about yourself, and I think that's true reflection. I've got a journal. So I know the feeling. I really do. I'm the first person I tell somebody about that I journal, but it's I get my deepest, clearest thoughts out, even if I don't put them on paper. But the things that I've learned about myself that have been, I think, the truest as far as I know, have been from journaling.
Yeah, man. Like I'm thinking so much. Like that moment with Michael Preciado, it's in there. I wrote that in there. The sketch. You know, I took it from the tattoo artist after he put the sketch on his ink. There you go. I have that taped in there. Like it's in there, and I have that forever. Like that moment where I felt so great. There's this dude, Brad Davis. Me and him we were at Kunsan together. I knew him did you know him at Moody at all? He was at Moody.
Yeah, I've also got a pair of his shorts.
Oh, yeah. So me and him at Kunsan got in a little scuff, and like I was so angry in that moment, and I wrote about it. And then like a few weeks later, we talked about it, and we ended up being like really cool and realizing how stupid of an argument
that was.
He's
a good dude.
That's what I hear. You know, everyone loved him prior to that, and like it was like as soon as I got
He's not an Air Force guy, you know, but he's a good dude.
I could see it. I bet the dude will make senior. Like a lot of people loved him, and like.
Well, I'm saying from what I know about him at Moody, and that was just for like 6 months.
Yeah, and that was 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So things change, priorities change. I think he was going through a divorce at the time.
Maybe. Yeah. I know he has a kid. I didn't know when he got divorced, but yeah, like, and I hated him like in that moment, and then now I can read it or like reflect on like how mad I was at him and realize like why did I waste so much energy being mad at this dude when outside of work environment, like, me and him really liked each other, got along, had so many same interests. And I can like get mad at people at work and realize like, well, this is just work, and like people.
Lincoln did something like that.
President Lincoln.
Yeah, he would write.
Yep.
Yeah, Honest Abe, Illinois senator, lawyer.
Something about a cherry or apple tree. What kind of tree was it?
I thought that was Washington. Was that Lincoln?
Man.
I think Washington was a cherry tree. I don't know. Who cares? The point is,
A lot of people care.
the point is, but he was famous for writing letters to people that pissed him off.
Ooh, and putting it. Dale Carnegie said that. Yeah, and he stick it in his little closet. Yep. Yeah. I've never done that. I'm gonna send it.
I know some people that would wish the paperwork I wrote him was like that.
No, you're right.
You know what? If I ever get paperwork given to me again, what I'm going to say is, you'd probably feel a lot better if you just put this in a desk and not giving it to me, because that's what Lincoln did. That's the Lincoln way.
Oh, I am journaling about that to use it. But I'll never get paperwork.
But I think there's an element too, because they say if you want to remember something, you should write it down, right?
Yeah.
We learn that in school. Well, shouldn't you do that about things you learn in life as well?
Yes.
You know?
I just started doing it after John Hopper told me to, and I agree. I'm such a better person and better man from it.
Yeah.
By far.
And then of course you get to, put your thoughts in time, and it'll be interesting to go back and look at your thought process about it. I try to think about why I think certain things, how I got to a certain thought, the pathway to it. I try to record that. And if I can record that, then I think it helps me later on, but it helps me in the moment too, because then I look at that and I read it and I reflect on it, I think about it, and I think man, was there a better way to go about that?
Yeah.
And it's like you're instantly learning. And to the point I made previously about books, you could view that as a distillation of an experience. And learn from that.
Yeah. So far, with keeping this PG-13, I remember I was with a woman, and I have always had this thing that gets me going, and I just didn't really want to tell her because it's awkward. Hey, do this, so I never do it. And in that moment, I was unless I know the girl, she's my girlfriend, she's gonna know. But this girl wasn't my girlfriend. I was hey, do this, and she's oh, I love doing that, and I was what? Why don't I just always say what I'm thinking? And I wrote about it, and now since that moment, with partners going forward, I've been able to just say that, and they're usually open to it. And it's I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I'm going to circle this back to giving people compliments, man. Oftentimes, the way to get through these awkward conversations is just to, one, acknowledge the situation. Hey, this is awkward for both of us. Okay, but I care about what's going on here. This is what I'd like you to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think.
What do you think?
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it'd be hard for them to say no.
Well, there is some positional pressure there. Yeah. So I do think that what's necessary and is again acknowledging the situation, giving them an out. I think is important, especially if you genuinely care about the person. But let me ask you this.
Sure.
How are you with apologizing?
I can think of moments Air Force wise where I fucked up and I'm okay with apologizing. I can think of moments where I'm probably not, they're more wrong than me, but I can see 20%'s me and I can apologize. But then I can see between someone, when I care about, me and you, we care about each other. And if we got into, if me, you and stalking, probably similar, my relationship, the amount of time we talk to each other similar, if stalking pisses me off, which he knows he could do that in the Air Force. He was very I'm going to do whatever I want. I don't care what. He could piss me off in the Air Force, and I'd probably never apologize to him because he, that's just how he is. It's really hard to have that conversation with him because I just don't think he'd reciprocate, and it wouldn't get anywhere. And he might not even remember it. He has that. So I guess it's my answer to you. How is John Tisue about apologizing? Usually good. But if I think someone isn't going to take it well, or it's going to potentially hurt my feelings, won't make me feel any better, I'm not going to do it. And I can think of a few people, moments where I didn't do it. With relationships with women, if it doesn't work out, I usually don't say sorry. It's just it's probably their fault more than mine, and they don't want to talk to me anyway. Like, so I'm not going to do it.
Fair enough.
So I guess I'm okay at it. I could be better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have thought years ago that apologizing wasn't about the incident per se. And if you have a relationship with somebody, apologizing is more about the relationship. So for example, if my wife and I have a disagreement about something, but I think it was her fault, which never happens.
Yeah, it's not her fault. It's her fault.
Yeah, right. Never. But my point is that, so there's a wrong. I don't think I'm in the wrong, right? I'm trying to work on being better at, it's not about right or wrong. It's about the relationship. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry that I put you in the position for you to be offended because I care about you and I don't want you to feel that way. And obviously something I did, though not intentioned, made you feel that way. So it's me working on this thing of like, apologizing, even though I know I'm in the right, but at the end of the day, the relationship's far more important than who's won the argument over right or wrong.
And you're okay. Don't just say, you're probably going to say yes to this and do what you want. And you're okay with, like, even though the other person, in this case Mary or any other situation, isn't going to have that same thought as you're just okay with them winning, in a sense, like you're just fine with that.
Well, if you can repackage it as not winning, and that's what I'm trying to do, is me being right more important than the wrong that she felt. Not to say that we can't have a discussion about it, but initially, like, I did something that wasn't intended to offend you, but you felt offended by it, right? I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. That wasn't my intention. And it's important that you understand that before I even get the opportunity to explain myself.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, you've got to, I think, correct the unintended violation. I'm sorry for that, And I think in the Air Force, well, people in general, I think they view apologizing as an atonement for right or wrong, but sometimes it's an atonement to preserve the relationship. And I think there's relationships that are hindered by not observing that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I guess this is one of my faults, is I'm not consistent, and there's moments where I can't think that deeply and just do the right thing. Like bring it back to Brad Davis. That moment I should have just been like, you know what, this isn't even worth arguing about. It's cool, dude. We'll do it your way. But I think if it's someone I love, you love Mary, so that's so important to just, that is the precedence. And I've been in love with 2 women before in my life, and I could see, me in moments just took that, and, that was more important. Mm-hmm. But more often than not, I guess I'm just not mature enough or wise enough to think that deeply into it, and not,
I don't think it's that. I mean, I know you keep saying that like about me. I don't think I'm viewing it that deeply or wisely. Anything that I've said, to be honest with you. But I've had the same perspective with my friends. Mm-hmm. But then again, I love my friends. I take the same perspective with you. If I offended you, I would right that wrong first, that you were offended.
What about?
And then we could have a discussion on what was actually right or wrong. Because there's a responsibility that I have to not offend you. There's a responsibility that you have to give me the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. That I care about you and I'm not out here to fuck you up.
So what about when 27-year-old Brian was offending moody leaders? Were you thinking this, or is this something recently you've gained?
It's something recently, but what I will say, I adopted a position of ownership. I constantly said, this is what I did wrong, sorry. And oftentimes I had to find something. Because I understood that in order for there to be a conduit of conversation with people that don't like me, I have to put them in a position of control. Mm-hmm. So I would find a way to apologize for something that I genuinely did not feel, like in my heart of hearts, that I was not wrong. But I had to do that in order to create something of a conduit. That's how toxic Moody was for me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I mean, I did it to,
Yeah, I guess I knew the relationship between you two weren't bad. And she was my supervisor, and that was like something me and you talked about. Like she did fine by me at all.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I guess you didn't feel that way.
Well, I'll say this. Pains me to give this credit, if I'm honest, but I'm not sure that she had a mind of her own about me. I think that she came into Moody and she was indoctrinated. And most people, I feel this way. I work with somebody right now who was at Moody during that time who was clearly one of those indoctrinated. And I'm sure it's confusing for her because people seem to like me, and I've had people tell me like, hey, this individual's asked about, you and why I enjoy working with you. What's up with that? Nothing, I think, we worked at Mooney. I think we work great. Wasn't the case, but it doesn't matter, first of all, because I don't, most people, there's an exception, about 3 people at that base that I think were architects in it, but everybody else, they were indoctrinated into it. And so unfortunately, and it at times makes me angry that I'm willing to give them a pass because they didn't deal with what I dealt with. They didn't deal with what my wife had to deal with. For my wife, long walks and short piers for every one of those people. There's zero redemption. But unfortunately for me, I can see how they weren't in control of themselves. They weren't given an opportunity. That's a hard thing for me to have to accept, but there's no way I can get to that.
Yeah.
Any other way. It has to be the truth. So
it's tough. It's a tough thing for me to respond to. Just complete different, like, I guess, interactions with these people. Cause for sure. She never did, like, she was fine for me, she told me what she wanted, and then she was there when I needed her, and and so I just can't really, and we had these talks back at Moody, I
don't judge somebody for having a better interaction than I had. Like, I don't care. Like, it's, and I'm happy that you, like all the people that weren't part, it seemed the closer you were to me, the more people fucked with you. But except for you had it pretty good there, and I don't care. It's not a problem. I'm glad, but other people, like, they received similar treatment, and they were fantastic. Their only crime was that they had a favorable view.
I think something that's really helped me out, and I learned this out from a kid he was older than me, Washington. I forget his first name, in IUD. And he said it. This was when I was at Offutt. I met him on a deployment, and he's like, I was air traffic, and this kid was ATO replanner. I think it's a 1C5. I think is there, but he had a terrible. There was all senior airmen and one staff sergeant in charge of them, and the staff sergeant was probably the dumbest staff sergeant I have ever met. I don't think this guy's ever passed a PT test. Biggest person I ever met. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was terrible leader, terrible, just like not there. Didn't have a CCA yet. Not that that matters. The guy was just, he existed.
You know what I've often thought? If not for having my CCAF, I wouldn't have taken that mortar fire.
But I think Nate is his name. Washington, I'll say it. Nate Washington was just like, everyone always wanted to talk shit about that guy in charge of that flight. And Nate Washington, stand-up dude, phenomenal at his job, was always just like, I think the guy just needs more time. And I just want to see nothing but the best in him. And I think he's going to be a great leader if we give him the time. And this dude was a senior airman. And even when, like, officers were bashing this dude in front of senior airman Washington, he was like, sir, I think we just need to give him more time and he'll be good. And, like, the amount of, like, admiration he got from me and other people for, like, being able to do that. And he was just super competent and could, like, handle anything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a Ireland kind of guy from Moody.
Yeah.
Guys, or Shelton, like one of those guys who were just super competent, and no matter what rank they are, people are going to follow him. He was very similar to that. And I was like, man, like, I should start saying that, or like not just say it, but like believe that. And that's something I always do. And maybe just because that's me is why people could like remove me from being buddies with you and some other people at Moody. Maybe that helped out. I don't know. I honestly, I just like, I tried to see the best in people, and
Yeah.
and it usually worked out. Like I'd see things they do, and it was beneficial, and even it was her first time doing that job in a facility she's never really been in. Like she wasn't a tower person. Like it was hard for her. And
Yeah.
so I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt.
No, I get it, you know, and that's what you should do. I mean, that's assume the noble motive, right? That's a Dale Carnegie thing.
Yeah, and it also doesn't help to like fight them. What is that? Like, man, I wrote a research paper. Like, it wasn't a dissertation or anything. Obviously, I'm not that smart. One day, but I wrote a research paper on like, what is the number one thing a leader wants from a follower? Take two guesses. What do you think it is? And then I'll tell you.
Well, that seems opinionated, but what a leader wants from a follower.
Yeah, what's the number one thing?
To be followed, because otherwise you're not a leader.
I like that.
He who's
Lonely path.
what's that?
Walking a lonely path.
Yeah.
Finish it, though.
It's the he who thinketh he leadeth yet hath nobody following is simply taking a walk.
That's it.
So a single follower justifies the position of leader. So that and I don't know, truth.
Cool. Yeah. And once you called me out and said it's probably opinionated, I was like, oh, fuck, you're right. Like, I read one research paper. Now I know. I know. What does the leader want from a follower? But according to this paper, I know. And I don't remember who the author is. I was just trying to get through Unit 4 of whatever leadership course I was in. But it's the willing to collaborate. And, you know, and like as a leader, and I could imagine as a chief controller more so, but even just as a crew boss in air traffic control, like that is so important. The willingness for your followers to work with one another to like just do the job, because when you have that person
collaborate amongst the other followers. Oh, I see.
Yeah, or I guess even with you.
Yeah.
But if you have that person that's just like let's say me and you are crew bosses and someone was in charge of us and we just were at Herbert Field and did not get along, and I was trying to boss you around on your crew telling you what to do. Like, you could imagine
that a thing? I've never experienced that.
Like, for a fucking swell guy like Jerome Cole to manage that, like, the dude is a good leader, you know? I worked with the dude at Osan. Like, I could see it in him even then.
Yeah.
And I like, that's something that stuck with me. And like, that's something obviously the willing to be a follower too is important, to be a leader.
Yeah.
But then like
that's more of an existential point, you know, but that's the perspective I would take. I mean,
but yeah, like I could imagine that whenever I become a chief controller, I just really hope the people under me can work with one another, because how do you
deal with it if you can't?
I think so Darren Brownlee taught me this, is just like when people don't, like, you have to make sure they stay in their lane. So like if I had a dude at Herbert who wasn't working with this other dude and trying to boss this dude around on his crew, I'd be like, look, young man, stay in your lane. Like, I trust you to run this crew. You have to let this other guy run his crew, and you can't interject in there because you guys are equals in that aspect. You know, like that I guess that's emotion, and we'd have to see where it goes from there if he doesn't follow it.
I would. My opinion of that would be, in that situation, what I would like to see happen is that, first of all, it's a force multiplier if the two people can work together.
Yes.
And otherwise, it's more work on you for you to have to always be the nexus of problem solving. Because if there are problems between the crews and they can't work it out themselves, you have to get involved.
Yeah.
Right? So it's in your best interest to actually solve the problem.
I agree.
So the way you solve the problem, in my opinion, what I've done with people who can't work with one another is I force them to work with one another, and I observe and I give active feedback. Okay, that's wrong. I want to let you know you're being a dick. Okay, what he said was actually very reasonable. You need to reconsider. Mm-hmm. Okay, you are using terrible body language, something like that. You know what I mean? And maybe not that aggressive a language, but like being a dick, but you're not listening to him. He's telling you exactly what he wants, and you are choosing to straw man his idea. You know, that's not how you get along. So you teach them to have interpersonal conflict, which is what you have to have. And I'll tell you this, I think this problem is going to be more pervasive over the next 5 to 10 years. When you're chief controller, this is going to be a big problem for you. And what's going to happen is that people are going to come to you with a problem, and you're going to be inclined to want to fix the problem off of that one thing. Out of that one perspective. After all, that's the fastest thing to do. Here's a problem. I believe this person to have a good track record. I trust them. I'm going to go tell this other person how life's going to be. But what you haven't done is gotten the full picture. And that's a lot of what happened in Moody. But the point is that you bring them in and say, look, you're an adult. You have to work with people, and you're going to work with more people you don't like, care about, all that. And I don't care. But what I do care about is that y'all are able to work together. Because when you're able to work together, I get less involved. And if I'm getting involved in something like you solving your own problems, that takes away from things that I could do to help you out.
Yep.
To help the facility out. To do things like get rated. Because I have to sit here and watch two grown people not being able to solve interpersonal conflict because your ego's involved or your feelings are hurt. If this person consistently has better ideas than you, great, learn from them. So that you don't become who you are forever.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's going to be a big problem for a lot of people, especially as we get a lot of our communication is done digitally.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
You know, and you know, so we don't know how to. Well, it's true. We don't know how to have conflict that way, and that's the majority of our conversations. So the likelihood that we're actually solving problems as adults in a communicative way seems highly unlikely.
I think we'll get there.
Not without pain. It's going to be painful, I think. I'm optimistic that it can be done, but it's going to be very painful. It's going to be painful on the surface.
Like it's
on the
like,
surface for sure.
In a moment like this where you're saying people communicate online and not in person, I'm like, you're right. And from now on, I'm always going to do it in person. But you're right. I've said that 7 times in my past, and then I go back to virtual.
Yeah, but even best intentions, it's you, right?
Sure. It's me and me alone, yeah.
If you're a chief controller, you're one person. Yeah. And the majority of the conversation is without you.
Sure.
Like, you don't even know about the majority of the conversation. Like 99% to a great decimal number you have no idea about that occurs in your facility.
I don't know what 99.
100%. You're one person. You're in your office. You're not in the
facility of
You're
28.
not in the tower. You're not, you know, you might be in the RapCon here soon. Hey, why don't you have radar ratings?
I do. I got them. I got GCA ratings at Spangal.
Oh, okay.
I'm rated at Kunsan.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Thank you.
Buddha, shout out to Buddha. He's scared to get his RapCon ratings. I'm going to put him on blast.
That's messed up.
Yeah. and I'll tell you why. It's not because of capability. And that's to his credit.
Great controller. Best one I had on my crew at Moody.
Great controller. Great dude. Has a lot of potential. And he will peak out and he will not have the opportunity to be the person he can be to controllers because he doesn't want to subordinate himself in the process to be somebody who doesn't know anything.
Eventually someone will. Like, if I was his boss, if you were his boss.
I legitimately thought about calling his facility as he was en route, and because I know the chief controller, and saying, look, you know, tell him about this guy and say, this guy will earn you money. Send him down to the RapCon. Yeah. He'll get rated in that tower quick, I promise.
I think the trouble with it, like, so let's selfishly, if I'm the he's Columbus, right? Columbus, if I'm the Columbus chief controller, I don't want to lose him. He's not deploying. I know that's selfish and wrong. Yeah. But like, that's it. When I was crew boss at Moody and he was my number 2 as a senior airman, I'm not losing this guy. Like, this is my guy.
Yeah.
And that might, you know, selfishly, leaders might take that with them. I don't want to lose this guy.
For sure. But at the same,
he doesn't want to get lost. So
yeah.
I'm helping him by keeping him. Win-win.
I know, but it's just,
bro, the RapCon wanted you, I kept you.
Long-term Buddha needs to be even just to get him, you know. I agree. But like he'd be
yeah, being radar rated, those guys, like the tower and radar, I'll say different career fields. It's just a different. Yeah. You're dual rated. Yeah. You know, it's so different. Like,
yeah. But being tower rated made me a better radar controller because I understood what tower can do with VFR aircraft. I understood what VFR sequencing means.
Yeah,
you know, as opposed to
I can imagine that.
Get out of here, your VFR. Yeah, contact tower. You're good.
And same, like, being radar rated makes me such a better tower controller. Like, I just not calling out tower. But I bet a lot of people can't read the flips. Like, they just can't. They don't care.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to us.
For sure.
Now I can get on the stars, the TW.
I deconflict via flips.
Really?
Yeah.
In the hour?
I deconflict both now. Yeah, both. I would issue crossing restrictions based on aircraft. Like if I had VFR aircraft at Moody and they had to cross the final approach fix at or above 1,600 feet, I would bring aircraft in under separated by 500 feet.
Yeah.
At or above at the fix.
Go to Columbus, booty.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, I really want to keep this going. I really have to pee again, though. How many breaks do I get?
I don't know. Do you want to keep going?
Your call. What are we at? How many hours are we at?
What do you think?
Man, last time I thought we were at 1, we were at 2.5. I'm going to guess 3.5.
3.5? Not bad. 3 hours, 5 minutes.
I over jumped that time.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Well, do you want to wrap it up? It's up to you, man.
Let me see if I have anything on my notepad.
Okay. This has been fun, man.
We're good. Yeah. Wrap it up.
Well, John, look, you're one of my favorite people.
Thank you.
Legitimately, you're somebody who's been an influence on me in a lot of ways, and I'm happy. I'm honored to be somebody that has been an influence on you, because I know all the problems that I have with me and who I am, and I know them better than anybody. And the idea that I can somehow impart something beneficial to another human being, is always humbling, and it's wonderful to see you do so well in the Air Force, do so well as a leader, have such a following that you do, and it's something that is inspirational and aspirational, and I love you for it, man. And I truly wish you the best, and you got a lifelong fan here, brother.
I appreciate that, man. I can't really reciprocate something that sentimental, so I want to just say same back to you, dude. For you to think I'm interesting enough to be on this, man, this is really cool. Like, I'm really curious to like see how many of my friends are like, oh yeah, listen to your 3 hour and 10-minute podcast. Like, really, dude? Like, wasn't that good? Like, tell me honestly what you think. Like, did I fuck up? What do you think?
Yes.
Probably. And life will go on. Man, dude, no, I love you. I really do love you. You've taught me so much. I could list off mentors, Todd Madden, Darren Brown. Like, there's so many people that had so much to, even like when we were quickly talking about like people wwho are younger and lower ranking, it's like this kid, Robert Potter, dude, like he is, there's so many people I can think of that are like so influential and like better people than me. Imposter syndrome, something you talked to me about. Yeah. Like so many moments. I'm like, why am I in charge of these people? Like, they are better than me. Here I am figuring it out. Like, man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's a cool ride. Like, I guess where I'm at. Like, I definitely advocate, like, if you're a 17-year-old kid, don't know what to do, join the Air Force. You're going to fucking meet a bunch of people who are just like you, don't know what the fuck they're doing, but you get by and you get paid well.
That's right.
And you're happy.
That's right.
And you end up doing all right. But, yeah, Brian Frill, thanks for bringing me on here.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really excited that you're doing this. Hopefully it gets really far for you. Like, you're back in your hometown. It's sad to see you get out, but, dude, I'm, like, pumped that you're doing
well. Look, this is just a hobby, man. Whatever happens, happens. I'm just happy to talk to all the interesting people that I've had the pleasure of meeting, and it's even better if I can be a part of their lives, like you, and man, you're gonna do some great things, and again, I'm excited to be along for the ride, so to speak. So
cool.
But love you, man.
Love you too.
All right, everybody, John Tisue, see ya. That's it, man.
That's fun. I can't believe